Video games. Whether you love them as a gaming minion or you dislike them being in a political agenda pushing type, either way, you can't deny that they exist. Unless of course you're living in a country which is 50 years behind technology, in which case, okay. Through the ages of its entire existence, video games have had an interesting journey to say the least. It's hard to believe that we started from such primitive machines by today's standards, of course, and going to the virtual cinematic realm where video games have their own movies. Millions upon millions of people throughout every gaming generation can remember something happening in their youth or in their timeline for when in their specific decade. In the 70s, many people were introduced to the brown box, which later became known as what? Exactly, the Magnavox Odyssey, which was of course back in 1972, being the first video game home console. Arcade machines were then running rampant with joy, and the Atari 2600 was born in the late 70s, which featured joysticks and interchangeable cartridges. Video game names started to become a huge thing back then, as big names were called out, such as Space Invaders, Pong, Pac-Man, Asteroids, Galaxian, Computer Space, among many others. In the 1980s, there was the video game crash that affected North America. In the UK, various gaming machines were being created. Gaming genres began to multiply, and also Nintendo introduced the Famicom, or as we know it as the Nintendo Entertainment System. From the 80s going throughout the 90s, video game icons were born, such as Super Mario, Sonic the Hedgehog, Lara Croft, Spyro the Dragon, Crash Bandicoot, among many others. Not to mention their fair amount of influence that they've had in gaming with the amount of video games they've had underneath their belt, but also the fact they've gone into the movie industry too. And please don't forget about the only war that actually mattered in console history: Sega does what Nintendo don't. 3D gaming began slowly to come into play, which opened up more possibilities of creativity and the actual norm of gaming itself. Video games were not just available on home consoles as time progressed and the technology began to become more sophisticated and gradually get better. So did the platforms. Now video games can be played on not only video game consoles and computers, iPads, handheld consoles, mobile phones, virtual reality. Probably even your own toaster could actually play video games now these days. Yes, gaming has had its transformation of maturity throughout its history. It's had some bumpy rides, and it's had some fairly good, decent rides too. It's had its fair deal of fair and harsh criticism, basically going towards the video games that have been created. Good games and bad games were brought forth in every video game generation. Local couch mayhem multiplayer transformed into online gameplay. Some companies have had their times in the sun and then unfortunately died out. Gaming has not had a perfect path, to say the least. But if you can find something valuable, fun and replayable from the early days of gaming, which is to say before your time, or for those of you that grew up in those times, around your time, in the 70s, 80s and 90s, if you can find something valuable and more than just what meets the eye in terms of having a video game because it looks good, or because the graphics are superior, or because it has online, then more power to you, fellow gaming minion, for looking for those things. Many gamers grew up watching and witnessing the events of gaming unfold in different generations throughout their youth, especially when gaming was in its baby form back in the 70s and its sort of midlife form in the 80s, growing up slowly. We have many folks across the globe, especially here on the internet, who can talk about their experiences of what they experienced when they were young with gaming and how it was for them. Which brings us into today's video. Hello gaming minions across the globe. Retro gaming versus modern gaming. This video is not going to provide an in-depth analysis of the old retro versus modern thing. No, we all have our opinions about which we prefer when it comes to video gaming itself. But remember, what's modern now is going to be retro in the future. So when we say old school retro gaming, we mean to say cartridge based games, or games that are played on VHS or things like that, as opposed to just playing on discs and having online and having microtransactions and DLCs and cinematic movies that are probably a lot more than what the game itself has to produce, so to speak. No. We have some people on today's video, fellow gaming minions, that are going to talk about their experience as we cover a few range of different topics. You're not going to be hearing from me all that much until the end of the video. The limelight is going to be on these fellow YouTubers who kindly I would say volunteered after I asked them if they would like to be in today's video, and they said yes, we would like to. And it's really good, because it's really good to have people showing interest in my account. Feels good. It feels good. So here we go. Here are the YouTubers, and make sure you enjoy the video, sit back and relax, and you know it's a bit of a long one. You just sit there and just watch and enjoy. Feel free to leave comments, timestamps, wherever you may please. Here we go. Alright then, the first item on the agenda, 2D games.
Basically that was just the beginning of them, so...
But they've been making a comeback now because retro gaming. So a lot of the 8-bit design games are 2D. They also have some really cool, like, Paper Mario kind of gaming. That's very still technically 2D, but it's still basically modernized. Like,
yeah.
I don't know, I think...
I kind of like... the one thing that I do know is, like, fighting games should technically almost always be 2D, because when they've tried to do, like, some sort of 3D thing to it...
Oh god, like Virtua Fighter?
Yeah, like... even though those are, like that, and, like, Tekken and stuff like that, they're technically... It's still on a 2D plane. It's just when you hit them, they have the option of moving out to somewhere else in the 3D world. But then they still end up on that 2D plane, because it's like... The jump is like when you push up, like the jump instead of like move upward. They have had like some mechanics like in Mortal Kombat where you can sidestep and like you can just keep moving like to the sides and stuff like that, but you're still on this like fixed 2D plane that just, that's what moves in the world, is like on an axis.
Like technically the isometric games tried to put them together, and that's probably why I have a hard time with isometric games, is that I can't negotiate a plane that's like, because it's kind of the opposite of what you're saying, right? Like where they're trying to create multiple planes, but they put a 2D image on it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my god, my brain can't figure it out, because technically the directional pad should be tilted just tweaked a little. So it's technically like north is that way, that is left, that is right, and that is south. And I'm just like, I can't work on a diagonal. I really can't. Like, my brain can't process a directional pad on a diagonal.
And some games do have like the two different sets of controls, which one is it follows the diagonal, that isometric view, and then the other one will be like 1-to-1 of like if you push down you move down, which is diagonal on the, I guess, the game board. I was thinking of my eye. But you know what I mean, like, yeah, like and that's what you were saying, like it's basically like they put an Escher painting on the screen, and then like you have to navigate that like those weird 2D image as if it was a 3D space. Like in a 2D game, like say a fighting game, you have what are basically like hit boxes, which there's also hit boxes in 3D games, but in like 2D games, they're usually, it's like really like a box that like if you hit in certain areas or something like that, with when those boxes collide, it has those interactions, like this is a kick and it hit him in the head or something like that, you know. In a 2D game, when you interact with something, it's more like it's at a stationary position, like, and your character moves and stuff like that, and so the world scrolls with you. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, so there, to me, there's benefits from both, and I do like when they do that kind of weird, like you're playing a 2D game, but the environment itself is like a 3D, like, I think they did it in one of the Castlevanias, but even though I didn't like that Castlevania, when you move to the left or the right, it's just basically a 2D side scroller. but the world around you, like you get to move around like these little pathways and stuff like that, and it gets this environment that feels like it's 3D, but you're still just moving back and forth. I guess for me, 2D games are like, without that, you can't get into like what would make a good 3D game, because like when you look at games like the Grand Theft Auto series, those started off as 2D games.
Yeah.
And you were like just on a very straight, you could just look down at your character and you watched him go through the streets. And then for the 3D versions of it, all they basically did was go put you in his like point of view.
Yeah.
It translates like actually really well, where you just change your perspective instead of from being the top down and you can see like all this thing, you see from like where he is, and I think even they have a mode where you can go and play it in the old style because it's just a top down camera.
Well, I am a really huge fan of 2D gaming. I'm a really huge fan of gaming in general, though. I grew up with 2D games. A lot of us did, actually. And I feel like 2D games are the foundation of today's modern gaming, honestly. If it wasn't for 2D gaming and side-scrollers and platformers and blah, 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 we wouldn't be here today. We started somewhere, and it's progressed this far because of 2D gaming. And honestly, who doesn't like a good retro game? Don't get me wrong, I like storyline, and I like good graphics. Like, who doesn't? But I also love going back to the old days and playing a good 2D scroller game, you know? I enjoy playing a good old-fashioned Mario game or Metroid game or Donkey Kong or Legend of Zelda. I really, really love 2D games, and I don't know why you wouldn't want to love it either.
Thank you very much, Doctor. Not Doctor Who, or
No.
Doctor Strange,
Or Dr. Mario.
Dr. Seuss,
Dr. Seuss, the Cat in the Hat.
Dr. Dre.
Dr. Dre!
Why did you instantly just start jamming? Thanks, Doctor. Right.
Dre.
2D games. Man, it all started off... Robert Downey Jr.
Sherlock Holmes.
Pong. It all started with Pong, for the love of God.
Yes, Pong was the very first video game out. 2D it was.
It was
'Cause
2D.
All the capability. That's the system had the capability to just do 2D.
No.
I don't think they were even thinking about, you know.
No, you had
other
a
dimensions.
calculator and you had a Pong machine. It was
Yes.
literally just for that. But you know, then they took it further, right? You had like the NES. You had platformers being made, Donkey Kong. You had Mario Brothers. You had all these classic games starting off in 2D, right? And then you had the SNES and others of that ilk. You had the invention or creation of more colours and brighter sprites and faster frame rates and more fluid gameplay.
So you mentioned, like, for instance, Donkey Kong Country, where that was a 2D game, completely 2D.
Oh, yes,
but the
yes.
rendering of the game, the graphics, made it look almost like 3D in essence.
Oh, you said it! You said the word 3D, Peter!
Yes,
Oh.
but it was still a completely 2D game.
Completely 2D. And nowadays, you have very modern games.
Yes.
And the thing is, you don't want to... It's hard to think about a 2D game, with a modern one at least, when they're asking like a premium 30 quid to 60 quid price tag on
Yeah, like
release.
50 quid, yeah, for a game nowadays.
And it's 2D, and everyone just thinks ultimately, and I got to admit, I kind of do as well. 2D?
Am I going to shell out 50 quid for a 2D game?
Yeah, some sort of indie game company's come up with this 2D game.
Can one of my old consoles not play this game?
Yeah,
You know?
like, have I already basically got this
Yeah.
game? Like, how many ideas of a 2D game can you come up
Is it
with?
just a reskin? But no, there are certain games, like for instance, you mentioned Cuphead.
Yes,
That
very good
is
one. Yeah.
A modern game that is a classic already. I mean, it's already a classic.
It is.
It is fantastic.
I mean, it even looks classic.
hard,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
It's smooth and it's fluid, and
Yeah.
that's the capabilities of the newer consoles can do that with 2D.
Yeah.
So it makes it look better.
Indeedy. 2D.
Alright then, guys, thank you very kindly for watching this segment of 2D games. Now let's move on to the next one, which is 3D games.
Like first-person shooter games to me, just like looks like they use shading to make it 3D, which to me in like real life, when I look at images, it's all perspective, like finding like the focal point and then seeing like what's it called, the horizon, and using focal points and stuff. In like games, if you could still create 3D like representation on a 2D plane. So I don't know, like what does the point, when does the boundary, like, between 2D and 3D separate?
Well, like, if you look at, like, some, like, there'd be, like, what are they called? Hack and slash games or whatever. And adventure games, like Legend of Zelda, the ones that they did on the N64. That's, like, going into the realm of 3D. Because you could, if it's
on the
from
64?
Yeah. Like the Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, it's like you're in a 3D world. Like you can look up and around.
Oh well,
the
yeah,
spiral
those.
and stuff like.
You know what though? The problem with those is they use the polygonal technology at the time, which to me, like, even though don't knock me for saying this, because those were wonderful games, but visually speaking, I just did not like them. Even if they try to put a mask over the polygonal to make it look better, it just, I don't know, it's really clunky.
Well, essentially that's what they still do now, is just now they're able to have more polygons in, like, a character. Like, if you play Skyrim, it's basically the exact same thing. You have, like, your character that they are a point, and instead of, like, you know, this character that's really super blocky, you have one that, like, has, like, all the nice shading, and, like, you can put costumes on and things like that. And when you go through the world, like, there's hills and, like, you know, different elevations and things like that.
Which I love Skyrim. I mean, I'm actually a huge fan of Skyrim. Skyrim's one of my favorite modern games. But even then, it still has its problems because of its 3D stuff. Like the textures and stuff, there's always a bug in it. Like in mine, what it does is, like, my game is so bad, I need to get a capture card. I've told people about this, where every time I travel to Whiterun, a dragon corpse pretty much is birthed out of the ground. Like, literally, it looks like the town square is, like, giving birth to it. It's like, ugh, and it pops out of the ground and it, like, flops on the ground and then it twitches. And it's just so disturbing to me. You can see the textures that are, like, all bad in it too. Like, it's just, like, horrible. Love the game.
Yeah.
Absolutely love the game, but
and see, those are things, like, where
there are a bunch of 3D games. Technically, they could be categorized as 3D games that I like, but usually it's more of, like, the mechanics of it and like the storyline. It's basically, with me, visual technically comes last.
Yeah.
With games, it's more of the experience. So even though visuals are part of that experience, I'm like, to me it's more important that it has, like, a storyline. Or if it doesn't have a storyline, if it's real playful, like, if it's real fun. Like, as long as it's, like, entertaining to me in one way or the other.
Yeah.
That's what I really care about. But there's only so much that a visuals can entertain a person.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't just be like, oh, let me look at that like it's a work of art. No, it's a video game.
Yeah, where games are supposed to be interactive, and if there's not really
any interaction, yeah.
It's like,
that's not worth it.
It might as well be just an ebook.
Exactly, right? Like that's that Legend of Zelda that shall not be named on CD.
If you're playing a game like one of the Halos or Fallout or something like that, that has a hitbox that's more conformed to, like, what the character is. So, like, they have to build a mesh that is that character, whereas this other one, it's just like, this is a hitbox, this is where it needs to do, you know, and things like that. And you'll notice, like, when you interact with certain things, like in a world, you're in a loaded area and you have to go and you do something, and then you go through a door and it has to load another area.
Yeah, it's just like, it doesn't compute with me. Like, I'd rather, if you're going to use 2D, you stick to 2D. If you're going to use 3D, you stick to 3D. Otherwise, my brain can't process the two together. I don't know, like, but I'm not a huge fan of the 3D. to be quite honest, because like 3D, like even stuff that I think that you're saying is 3D in my mind is still technically 2D.
A 3D game, it doesn't necessarily have to be good as a 2D game as well, but understanding like what makes good 2D games is what helps them build a good 3D game. You know what I mean? And like those are the most successful. They had one game called like Mace or something like that, and a couple other fighting games that tried to do the 3D like into it, and it was just really really clunky. And like to me, it suffered because they were trying to shift it between the 2D and the 3D, and it didn't really work.
Yeah, I think it's hard to put them both together.
I think those are like good like qualities of 2D and 3D games, and yeah, I do like when they...
It's kind of hard to talk about one without like excluding the other, so we kind of lump that together, but...
Now, of course, like with anything, it's going to evolve. It's like a Pokemon, let's face it. Anything is like a Pokemon. Gaming started from, you know, computers, like, what's it called? Tennis or ping pong, whatever you call it. It evolved from that to the Atari, to Nintendo. Like, honestly, evolution is good. Evolution is good because it shows progress, it shows where we started and how far we've come, and honestly, 3D games are proof of that. Back in the day, like, I could imagine 3D games just being so amazing to people. In fact, it was amazing. It was so revolutionary and groundbreaking, because holy crap, our games are 3D now. Like, it's not some little sprite against a background. This is a full, fleshed out character in this massive world. Take Super Mario 64, for example. That is a perfect example of 3D gaming, because he started from a two-dimensional sprite to a three-dimensional, playable, kick-ass plumber. Yeah, I said it. So yeah, it's amazing how, like, even in today's modern gaming, our games have evolved so 3D, in fact, that they're using actual people's faces for game characters. Like, I don't know how much more 3D that gets. That is amazing. It's awesome. It's amazing how far gaming has progressed. And honestly, I really look forward to see how it progresses even more.
Pete.
The third dimension.
The third dimension. Da, 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 da,
so this is when games... I was 6 when we call the 3D games consoles came out. So that's like the N64, the PlayStation. And then, wow.
Sorry, the Saturn.
Yeah, the Saturn. Yeah, that was even yeah. That was a real eye-opener for me, games-wise. Like, wow, this is like real life.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
You're not playing a game, you're like almost playing like a life.
And I guess with regards to you specifically, because when I started, I had consoles, Mega Drives and shit, but I started my own console. It was a PlayStation. Others were all just family systems that we all shared. So my first console that was given to me was a PlayStation.
Right.
And I had Crash Bandicoot and Spyro.
Nice.
So they're awesome. They're 3D. You have that adventure sort of world. But for you were a big Nintendo boy, right?
Yeah.
So you were playing Mario, but now your beloved Mario is in fucking 64-bit and 3D, motherfucker.
I couldn't believe it. It was like... You used to him just going left and right, and now you got him going every direction.
All of them.
Crazy, yeah.
Look, we can replicate this.
Look, that is a 3D Mario.
That almost fell off. Whoa there! Whoa!
See, he's going all about the place.
He's going all over the shop.
Yeah, so 3D games really did take it to the next level. Probably the biggest like jump in video game history was 3D.
One of them. It's definitely
one of them.
Yeah. And for me, notably, as I said, Crash Bandicoot and Spyro like that.
Yeah.
That's kind of when 3D hit me in the face.
Yeah.
When I saw it and fell in love with it was GTA 3.
Yes.
That was when I was playing a game where I could run around as a completely alter ego. It almost felt like escapism, I guess.
Yeah, definitely.
You were running around as what was his name? He didn't have a name.
He didn't have a name, but it's Claude. Yeah.
And just doing all this shit, shooting, driving, doing races, shit like that.
It was life, but you could get away with anything.
Yeah, it was. It really was. Oh my god, what's happening?
He's dying. Watch out. Send him some money on PayPal. Get rid of that cough.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I remember the first time I played GTA. I was a big GTA 2 fan. I used to love that shit. And then I played it around a friend's house, and I was like, oh my god. Like, I couldn't even go out to GTA 2. I was like, right, I need to get a PlayStation 2 ASAFP and play this game every day.
And I got your mum to buy it for me.
Yes.
Yeah. I think... Yeah, we were just at a Blockbuster, I think, actually.
It was, yeah.
Wow.
On Motley, yeah.
There you go.
She was Manhunt as well. Shout out.
Yeah, she's probably watching, to be fair.
Yeah, so, yeah, 3D, that, I mean, it's, yeah, one of the biggest jumps in...
Yeah.
One of the biggest advancements, for sure.
Indeed. And now, of course, we come to expect it. On all modern systems, whether it be Call of Duty or Forza or Need for Speed, they're all three-dimensional.
Alright, lovely minions. Now it's time to come on to the next segment of the amazing video you're watching today, and it is gaming music.
I would go out on a limb and say that retro music, not because it's nostalgic, but because of the limitations that they had more memorable music, because
You had to be a lot more creative with it.
yeah, even when you get like the little you know, like from like Mega Man or something like that, those are very recognizable because it's that, like MIDI.
That MIDI sounds like, yeah, I think with that, like, yeah, it's like if you hear the music, like, what songs can you play and you hear it and you automatically recognize it for the game? If you heard music from Halo,
Yeah.
would you recognize that it's automatically Halo? Unless you were a super fan.
And, well, that one, I would say the only reason that one to me is memorable is because it's repetitive throughout without being
Really?
like overdone. Yeah, like when you play it, like when you get to like certain point with enemies, like it starts doing a certain music. When you get
It's
to...
funny, I don't know what Halo music sounds like.
Yeah, it will...
I'm like, that's why I'm like, I use that as an example because I was like, I'm not a fan of Halo.
Yeah.
So if I heard Halo, I wouldn't recognize it. It's like Skyrim. I'm a huge fan of Skyrim, so if I heard Skyrim music, I right off the... And he's done that to me where like
And Skyrim music to me just goes into the background. And see, that's what I was going to say. I couldn't pinpoint Skyrim.
But if you have like the older games, like even if you're not a fan of the game, as soon as you hear that song, you automatically go, Legend of Zelda, Mario Brothers, you know, you go Tetris. Tetris is a huge one. Tetris is probably like the most recognizable song from any video game.
Yeah.
Anybody, even if someone was not a fan of Tetris, they heard that ding 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 ding. Ding ding ding. They would automatically go Tetris.
Yeah. So, and like, that's what I was going to say, is that music back in the day was more geared towards this is this level, this is this character, this is, you know, this event that happens. Like if you play Legend of Zelda, like when you get something and you open a door, it's all, you know, it has this little
little chime that
you know.
And even if you're not a fan of Legend of Zelda, which I hate to admit this in front of people, but I'm not really a huge fan of Legend of Zelda because I couldn't really get into it when I was young. So I don't really have any like good memories of Legend of Zelda to me personally. But when I hear that song, I'm like, oh, Legend of Zelda.
Yeah, and see, the thing that I think that happens now is because they're more orchestral and they're able to do those kinds of things, the music starts to dip into the background and it just becomes part of the atmosphere instead of being like, I'm at this level, I'm in this place. You really only get the sounds and that you get, like how we were saying, like Legend of Zelda. I couldn't pinpoint like a Legend of Zelda now, like the music for the level or the world that I'm in, but I could still recognize, oh, I got this item or something like that.
I can say this. Okay, Breath of the Wild, there's always that little sound effect when you like uncover an area, and they pull that up, so that's modern, but it's still like
it's still recognizable.
Yeah, it's recognizable.
Yeah.
But it's really hard to find nowadays those kind of games that have that, because like he said, is like it's all atmospheric.
Yeah.
And it's all made to create feelings and like, oh, this is a nice, happy moment. So I feel nice and warm and fuzzy inside by this background music. Like how they do in movies is basically what they're doing in video games now. Which back in the day, that's not what they did. They were just trying to like make it recognizable to the brand name.
Yeah.
And which I'm kind of for, because it's like because it does convey an emotion that we don't consider until like way later on, and that is nostalgia.
I love gaming music so much. In fact, I have a whole album on my iPhone, on my iTunes library. I have a whole album dedicated to game music, because game music, there's so much like nostalgia behind it. It's also, it can be very beautiful, very very detailed, and it just sometimes it plays with your emotions. One of my favorite game themes of all time is Bowser's Super Mario 64 theme. I just love that very first boss fight, and you just hear that that dark, sinister rock music playing, and oh my god, it just captures so much nostalgia. But then we have games like Final Fantasy VII, where Aerith dies, and that really sad, slow melody plays. And you just, after playing with her for so long, you're just so heartbroken that she's dead. And this is the song that you're rewarded with. Bottom line, gaming music can really make a game or a specific level or specific character. I can always appreciate fine music to a game.
Gaming music.
The score.
Oh, Peter, what is the score?
The score is 1-0.
Oh, 1-0 to music, because when we play a Sunday sesh, which is basically a game that we've never played and we probably won't play again, we notice when there's not music, whether it's there like as a glitch or whether the game just literally is just super cheap. They just don't have music for it.
Star
but when
Wars
it's
episode 1 racer.
yeah, no, that was specifically only on the third lap it came in, wasn't it?
Weird.
But you notice so badly. You're just there and you're like, oh no, you're beating me. Oh my god. And then you realise suddenly all you it's like, this is fucking terrible. Where's my bloody rock soundtrack out from the games, you know?
Music is very important to a game.
Yeah.
Especially when I hear a song now from a game from the past, I remember, oh shit, that was that level of Super Mario 64, for instance.
Oh yes,
you know, that was, oh, this music came in at this bit, this epic scene. It really makes you remember parts of the game.
It does.
If it was all in silent, you know, it wouldn't be as memorable.
And there are some games where they're renowned for the soundtracks.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go and throw in Doom. Like the original.
Right.
I think it is based on Slayer actually,
Right.
and a load of the other ones are like famous metal tracks as well that they just converted into 8-bit.
Yeah.
And then of course nowadays Doom 2016 came out and it actually won an award. It was a big one though. It wasn't a BAFTA, but it was like that.
yeah.
And for the music, the soundtrack,
Right, yeah.
it was amazing. It was really good.
Count-
The best thing about that in particular was that because it was like a super metal fucking intro, but because it won this award, they had to play it live.
Oh, they had to perform it.
And
right.
of course, it was like this prestigious awards thing, so they're all sat there hoity-toity with their tuxedos on and everything. Yeah, awesome stuff. Music, man.
Yeah,
gotta
it's
have it.
really good. I mean, I own some game soundtracks on CD.
Yeah, you do, like collector's
Yeah.
edition-y ones.
Yeah,
right?
I even have some vinyls.
You do? Yeah,
so-
you got GTA 3 vinyl, haven't you?
Yeah. And we gon' give it all that we got. Keep rising to the top. Dr. Virtual, keep rising to the top.
Alright then, fellow minions, now let's hear about the nostalgic times.
Now that we're older and we've had those experience with those things that are from the past, those are things that they've brought forward. Like if I was playing the N64 or the old Legend of Zeldas, and it's playing a certain music because I'm in an area, I recognize that. You know, I recognize those areas. I recognize that score for the game. But the little, like, oh, I found this thing and it plays a little, you know, the chime that's the music that plays when, you know, I do this certain event. They brought those things forward into the new stuff, even while they upgraded like the score for like this is this area you're in, and I'm like, well, yeah, that kind of just creates an atmosphere, but it's not recognizable to me. But once I open this chest, there's the old nostalgic thing playing.
I'll admit something, like, since we're on this topic. I have a ringtone, general ringtone, but on my phone. But then I have a separate ringtone for him. When he calls me, it plays the victory song from Final Fantasy. The da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Well,
It's a longer song, but yeah.
but it's like, you know it, and then and plus the feeling that goes behind that is like, I just won. So when he calls me, I'm like, I won. Oh, he's calling. No. Sorry, I thought that was cute, but
Yeah, I think that's something though that games do, like at least the ones that have history of games from the past. I think that's something that they do really well now, is that they make it accessible for people that are just learning about the games now, so that, you know, they can access it, and then we can go, oh, I remember that. Those are awesome things for me to, like, oh, you know, to just hear that little noise or something like that. Something that brings us back to, like, what we remember. And I think it helps make retro games accessible to people that are just discovering the games that are coming out now. So, like, somebody that's like, oh, I only played Breath of the Wild or something like that, to be like, oh, they have games from before, let me go check those out. And they might, like, consider it clunky to begin with, but then, yeah, once they hit that one little note of this happened and it made that sound for me, and it's like, oh, this is it, that's it, you know, and it'll get them into it. I mean, it's not like everybody's like that, but, you know, there's some people that can get past that, like, oh, this looks like shit. So,
yeah.
it still goes without saying that from retro games to games now, there's always games that are, like, amazing, they're, like, groundbreaking on, like, what they achieve, and then there's games that you're like, why did they make this is crap. And that comes out even now with games that are, like, beautiful, that look amazing, and you play the game and you're like, I wasted my money. You know? And it's still the same issue. Like, back then, I spent $20 on this game, which equates to about the $60 or whatever that I would pay for a game now. And it's like, yeah.
You begged your mom and dad for that one game, and they're like, well, if I get you this game, I'm not getting you any other games for, like, a whole year or something like that. And then they get you that game, and it's like, womp, womp, womp. You're like, oh, god dang it, why was it so horrible? That's why we would rent them.
Some really nostalgic memories for me would be gaming with my brothers on the Nintendo 64, the Mario Kart 64 battle arenas. We would always play the balloon battles. It was me, my middle brother, and my youngest brother. And every night after dinner, we would immediately go and boot up the 64, and we would just kick each other's asses, and we had so much fun doing it. In fact, my middle brother and I formed kind of a rivalry because we were really good, and we matched each other's skills and strengths, so we were pretty much evened out. So if he won, I won, but it was not an easy battle. We would fucking stay in that arena for almost an hour while my younger brother was a bomb trying to get to us but couldn't do it. And it was just such great times because we were just so competitive. I'm very competitive when it comes to like Mario sports games. I'm very competitive, and so is my brother. So we clashed a lot. We really, really clashed. And those were some of the best times ever.
Nostalgic times.
Nostalgic times.
I mean, a lot of my childhood was playing games. I was often, instead of going out to play, I was often playing on my NES, SNES, N64, PlayStation. And then PlayStation 2, you know, I started getting a bit older, then I started, you know, venturing outside the house a bit more. Yes, mate, down the park. But, yeah, so a lot of my childhood is video gaming. My friends coming over after school for tea, straight away, go in, get the PlayStation on, get whatever on, and be playing games. This is a massive part of my childhood.
For some reason, I am quite nostalgic towards the idea of trading in video games and consoles and stuff.
My. Because you I don't do that anymore.
No, you don't. I mean, you can go CEX and trade shit in, it's possible, but the fucking exchange ratio is completely...
completely. I used to get a game, there used to be 2-week return policy, I'd complete it in that 2 weeks, swap it out. The people at Game Station knew what I was doing.
Yeah. And because I was on PC, I'd be buying it, I'd be playing it, I'd go, that shit, or I've completed it.
Yeah.
This doesn't run on my computer, sorry.
I see.
That's a good one.
The thing now...
Yeah, again, they look at you like...
Yeah, the thing nowadays is there's, you know, heavy access to the internet. You can find out if a game is good or not first. Beforehand, you just pick it based on the cover.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
And if it was dog shit, you take it back.
But yeah, Dreamcast is it's my favourite console. We'll get onto that in a bit. But that was the first console that I repurchased.
Right.
Like, I traded it in, or I tried another system. I think it was the DS. I got that on release. And I was like, that's shit. I'm getting my fucking Dreamcast back. And not the exact one, but I did buy another one. And that's, that's nostalgic.
Yeah.
I like that. Trading in games, I think, is the highlight of the nostalgia from us, from gaming.
I miss that a lot.
Oh, I'm having a good time. Really much loving this. You loving it, fellow minions? Anyway, on to the next subject. Some of your favourite games.
Well, we did go over River City Ransom, which was my favorite for a while until we beat it, and now it's depressing. But I mean, I'm sorry
I helped you beat it, sweetie. I'm so sorry. Now I feel like I had a hand in upsetting you, crushing your childhood dreams.
I mean, I still enjoy playing it, and it's like, there's nothing wrong with it. It's like, it's just still a fun game. It's just, the ending is like, I don't know, maybe because I hadn't beaten it before, it's like that thing when you meet your hero and you're like, oh, you finally meet him and they're like a jerk, and it's like,
Why do you think I have a problem finishing games? Because I know that when I really, really, really love a game, I always feel like if I beat this game, the ending is not going to meet my expectations. Because I blow it up in my head to like this huge thing that's going to happen, and then you get to the ending and it always falls flat. And you're just like, I can't, I've been playing Phantasy Star Online for probably about 15 years now. I have never beaten that game, and I will admit it's on purpose. I don't like, and Skyrim too, I've been playing for a long time, and I never want to beat the game. I honestly don't want to ever beat the game. It sounds horrible to some people, but when I love a game, I love just to play it. I don't love to beat it.
It's kind of like this whole, like, I like to exist in that world. I don't necessarily like to know that world's gonna end. And like that's how I feel like now about the River City Ransom. Like, I like playing the game. I like the mechanics and things that it has. There's games nowadays that are like have better mechanics that are, you know, built upon that. But I like seeing also like where it came from. But then there's games like the Super Metroid, which I, you know, also consider like my favorite. And that one I beat over and over and over and over. But that one has the good ending. To go with the
what's it called, the Metroid, Castlevania, whatever. What's the term for it? Metroidvania. I'm the same way with Castlevania. Castlevania, I've beaten actually 2 of the games out of the whole series, and I will have to say that I actually enjoyed beating it. Because I think those kind of games, because they make them like a maze puzzle kind of thing, that it makes it enjoyable to actually beat them. Whereas like the other games, it's more of like the experience. Like you're not actually doing maze puzzle kind of things. Like I think in those like Skyrim and those kinds of games, it's more the experience of existing. Like you become that character. Like I get super attached to my characters that I create. And the same thing with Phantasy Star Online. You actually create your own character too. And I get super attached to when I have to create a character and building the character. I'm more invested in building the character than beating the game.
Yeah, and then those are like those things, like what I mean, like existing in the world, where like, you know, the Metroid and the Castlevania, you're given a character that's like technically a badass, but it's not your character. Though to me, it's like I don't get really attached to those characters because I'm like they could be. I didn't invest any of my own personal time in developing their character. I mean, technically, I do up their stats and stuff, but I didn't choose their hair color. I didn't choose their eye color. I didn't pick their name even. It's like they're the same character for any other person that plays that game, and they're going to up their stats the same way that I up their stats in order to beat that game. So it's like I don't really get emotionally invested in that character. So beating the game is actually more of a pleasure in that case. Yeah, and so that kind of touches on your favorite games, which are like the Castlevanias and then also the Phantasy Star, which is like basically those 2 camps of like I want to exist in this world and I want to you know, just experience the things that are happening, and then the one where like I just need to progress through here and solve this problem. I like puzzles.
This is a really hard question for me because I have so many favorite game series. Like off the bat, I could name Mortal Kombat, Dead or Alive. I could name any Mario game, Legend of Zelda, Mario, or just said Mario, Metroid, Super Smash Brothers. I can name so many very amazing games that I love. However, if I can only pick one, I say this every time I'm asked this question, it would be a tie between Tomb Raider and Resident Evil. Those are my favorite game series of all time, and honestly, I don't think one is above the other. They are both very equal because I've had so many good times playing them. I love the lore of both stories. I love the characters, the gameplay. Resident Evil and Tomb Raider are just perfect series to me, and I will always say that all the time. Favorite game series, it's a tie, and you can't make me say otherwise.
Some of our favorite games.
Of our favorite games.
There's an echo in there.
I need to get some more of that sound done.
Don't know why I was looking for it. Where is he? So we touched on it earlier. We mentioned the 3 initials GTA. I mean, no. I'm gonna have to put out that is my favorite franchise.
Yeah,
definitely. There's so many, and Mario's probably somewhere waving his fist at me going, why not me?
Oh, right.
Link, the same, waving his sword, why not me? Yes, okay.
The Legend of Link.
Yes, the Legend of Link.
Zelda's Awakening.
You're my favourite character, but the GTA games, were just.
Did you
so
just say
good.
you're my favourite character?
Yeah.
You were like talking to Link.
You're a favourite character, mate. Got no beef. You're sound as a pound. But GTA, the franchise, the games are too good to be bested by anything else. Zelda for me is a close second. It's close, but there's too much freedom in the GTA world. You can just do whatever you want.
Whenever someone says different question to this, whenever someone says, "What's the one game?" If you were on an island, what's the one game? It's always GTA.
It's got to be.
You've got racing, you've got shooting, you've got basketball, you've got like so much different shit, man. So much. Carry on.
How many times can you play the same, for instance, Mario game? You know, you can complete Super Mario World, completed it many times. Wouldn't want to play it forever, but GTA, you can kind of every time you play it, it is different.
Yeah. I can roll with that.
Yeah.
And if it's not, you can force it to be different. You can make different decisions. You can help different people. And
Definitely.
You can. Yeah, it's good.
People I've seen now, people are doing to spice up games a bit. They're doing on their videos like, oh, can I complete Mario without touching a coin?
Yeah.
Can I complete Mario without getting a power up? Trying to change up the games. GTA does that. So that's my Desert Island disc.
Yeah, sorry.
GTA 5, yeah.
I know that was my fault.
But yeah, the GTA series for me,
So
followed by Zelda, followed by Mario.
Nice. Okay, just those three. Wanging
Yeah.
them in. Nice.
And
Okay.
for you, Michael, your favourite gaming...
Not gonna lie,
Games.
when you were talking, I was rampantly trying to think of some. I'm surprised you managed to rattle off. To be honest, you did cheat a little bit, because you chose three massive franchises.
Well, yeah. Because they're massive for a reason.
But okay, no. We shan't go into separate games.
For you, I would say, I mean, Spyro's got to be up there, isn't it?
The thing is, for Spyro, I've only ever played the second one.
Really?
That's not true. I have dabbled with the first and third.
but properly.
But properly sink
Yeah.
time into the second. Yes, you're right, it is definitely up there. I don't know, Sonic Adventure even on the top three?
It's got to be. The thing is, you grew up a lot on the PC as well, and there's a lot of random PC
I'm looking
games.
up there now, like Test Drive Unlimited, Gran Turismo, Sega GT, like these games I fucking love. Tokyo Highway Challenge. God, I wish it was easy as you. Postal 2's on there.
Postal
2 is just a mwah.
You're right, I definitely did cheat, so if I had to narrow it down, it's going to be GTA 5, Zelda Link to the Past.
You going LTTP over Ocarina?
Definitely. Definitely.
Okay.
And Super Mario World.
Is Super Mario World, is that the Wii U one?
And the SNES.
The SNES?
Yeah.
Sorry, okay. I'm surprised you didn't go 64. It is a bit janky though, isn't it?
They were, when 3D first got introduced, it was lovely, but...
Yeah. Well, and the N64 itself was always like a bag of shit.
They hadn't worked out the cameras yet.
Yeah.
But it was still a great game.
Yeah, so for me, I'm just gonna say it. I will in 10 minutes if someone asks me, I'll probably come up with different games.
Different games, yeah.
But for me, I'm gonna go Postal 2, Spyro 2, and Sonic Adventure.
2.
No, not the second one. Definitely not Battle.
Okay, next on the list is gaming genre thoughts. Let's hear your thoughts on some gaming genres, fellow gaming minions.
But I guess we have kind of touched on that.
Yeah, I'm like RPG. I love RPGs because I can get emotionally invested into my character. Especially Japanese RPGs, I think are really like, they usually give you more options on like how you handle it depends on the series we're talking about, but I'm thinking more like Star Ocean, Second Story. Even though like they're pre-existing characters, you can actually change how they stat and you can change their relationships with other characters. You could make the canon couples fall in love with other people instead of each other, and you just can mess around with things and make things different, and you can make the outcome different in the end, and it's just like interesting.
I feel like the Japanese RPGs are where everything was built out, like kind of almost from the this is like the Dungeons and Dragons thing where we're trying to figure out how to fit it into this world, but we're gonna do our own thing as well. Whereas like if you play the games that are like actual Dungeons and Dragons, Baldur's Gate, those kind, they translate the mechanics, but and some of the lore, but it doesn't like it feels
doesn't personalize it as much.
It feels
like I never got into Baldur's Gate or I kind of played Dungeons and Dragons, but to me it wasn't like
they're like it's clunky because the experience of Dungeons and Dragons and those is like you with other people experiencing it and having a dungeon master. Where putting it into that context, it's basically just an adventure game.
Yeah. Well, when I meant Dungeons and Dragons, I meant the actual like computer game back in the day. I'm not talking about the actual tabletop where you're with a bunch of people playing it. No, one's different. Were you talking about the tabletop one? Because I was talking about the computer
when I was talking about like when I was saying interacting with people as Dungeons and Dragons, that's what the tabletop.
Well, I thought you were talking about the video game.
No, but when it transfers over to the video game, even back in the day, it's like
the video game I just did not like. I tried playing it when I was really young.
Strategy, the game.
Yeah, and I probably might have been too young at the time to get invested in that. But
I know we both like fighting games, but
I'm super competitive at fighting games. Like I grew up in Mortal Kombat.
But yeah, the fighting games, I'm not really much of a fighting game person. I play some, but unless there's something really specific to draw me to it, like when Mortal Kombat first came out and stuff like that, like it was cool because they had fatalities and things. But now a lot of games have like, oh, we have to finish him and this and that, and there's like the wrestling games and stuff. It's like those are like technically fighting games in the 3D environment, but it's within still like a set ring or whatever, and like so. I think certain like games draw from other games. Like how Borderlands, where like it's a first-person shooter, but it's also an RPG.
I think a lot of games nowadays kind of are kind of like a hodgepodge of genres, and they have to be to kind of be successful. So like Skyrim, Borderlands, BioShock, all of those. They're like shoot 'em up RPG fighting games. It's like everything like kind of thrown in there. You got story. It's like, so it's kind of hard to categorize it as one type of genre. Whereas like video games back in the day, you could actually like separate them into genres.
Yeah, it was very much shooter, fighter, RPG.
Was it shoot 'em up, beat 'em up?
Yeah,
RPG.
Driving game, stuff like that. Which, oddly enough, the only time I've ever seen really driving games is when I'm at the arcade.
Yeah.
And that's the only time I'll actually play them, because I really, other than Gran Turismo, when like the second one came out and I could just collect a bunch of cars and stuff like that, I really had no idea.
Oh no, that genre came real popular with that one with the clown car. What was that one?
Oh, Twisted Metal.
Yeah, there we go. Twisted Metal.
Yeah. And then to me, that's like a 3D fighting game with cars and stuff like that. So that's still another like mixing of genres.
Yeah, I think that was at the beginning of when they started realizing, hey, we can mix genres. Yeah. And then when they started doing that, people were like, hey. And then I think that's really where it was born from.
Gaming genre thoughts. I mean, like with anything, there's a genre, right? I mean, you got movies, you got books, you've got television shows. I mean, there's different genres. I mean, there's different audiences for different things, right? I mean, obviously, someone who's into survival horror isn't going to want to play a puzzle game. So, I mean, I don't know how I'm supposed to answer the question, but I'm all for genres, I guess. Yeah, like for me personally, I've always liked action and survival horror and party games, racing games, like you name it. I'm a variety gamer. I like all sorts of games, but it's good to have genre because, like I said, there's an audience for everyone. There's always a game with a specific audience in mind, and there's always people who are going to play that game, even if it's a suck-ass game, but yeah.
Gaming genre thoughts. There are genres in gaming.
My thoughts exactly.
Whoa!
You can get attached to one certain genre.
Yes, you can.
For instance, racing games.
Yep.
Massive genre.
Yes.
Platformers. I used to call them, before I knew what the term was, I used to call them Mario games. That's when I knew them. Oh, this is a Mario game.
Okay.
No, platformer.
Yeah.
There's many different genres, but they tend to, you got your open world sandbox games, which have become very prevalent now.
It's because technology, right?
Yeah.
The more you can pack into a game, the more open world you can make it, the more sandboxy it is.
For sure.
Fuck it, you can have a Spyro game with I was going to say with Tony Hawk's attached.
Yeah.
That's Spyro 3!
Well, you mentioned Tony Hawk's. I mean, that started out as just skating, and then when it comes to the underground, that was walking around the city, climbing,
parkour and shit.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Parkour, yeah. So, like you said, you hit the nail on the head. The more technology advances, the more every game becomes a bit more genre expanding. So even shooters like Call of Duty, yes, you're shooting, but there are elements of adventure, platforming sometimes.
Yeah, I think you'll agree.
Puzzle.
There are some developers that can perfect this kind of chemistry. GTA, right? We just spoke about.
Yeah,
it.
Rockstar. Yeah.
But I'm going to say a slightly different thing. When you focus on one genre and you become the master at that genre, it stands out.
Yeah.
You make a masterpiece. Zelda.
Yeah.
Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
People have said it's art. People
Apparently
have said it's
it's
amazing.
the best game. I haven't actually played it.
I
Apparently
played it
it's
for
the best
like 5 minutes on James's Switch.
Oh, yeah.
And I was shit. I died a lot.
Right.
It's probably because he's played it obviously a lot more than I have. He's had
Yes.
the time to grow up with it and everything. Not grow up with it, but
Yeah.
learn it from the start. Whereas I just jumped in the deep end. I think I had good gear, but regardless, you get my point.
Yeah.
Good shit. Another one is Resident Evil.
Oh,
They did
yes.
stray off a bit. Resident Evil
yeah.
5 and 6, survival horror, more like generic action game.
yeah.
I think they're quite good action games.
Very.
But not survival horror. Then
Yeah.
Resident Evil 7 came out. Bam! Right back in the driver's seat.
Oh, really? Is that proper survival horror like
Oh
the
yeah,
first
man.
one?
Have you not dabbled?
I have not.
Man, we've done Resident Evil 1. We've only
We
got
need
6 more to go.
Yeah.
One a year. And in 2030 we'll be playing it.
So yeah, it's good you mentioned that like developers should stick to one if they can perfect it.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier GTA, the Rockstar series. They brought out other games that aren't sandbox games.
Yeah.
So there were your Red Dead Redemptions, which is sandbox, but there were things, random ones, really random ones. Wild Metal.
Wild Metal, yeah.
Rockstar Ping Pong. Or
Was it
table
called
tennis.
Rockstar Ping
Yeah,
Pong?
or just like table tennis.
What
yeah.
was there like characters from their games in it? Or
I don't
something?
think there was, no. But
Oh, really?
Who knows? But yeah, sometimes you should just stick to one. But yeah, gaming genres.
Yeah.
They split up games.
I guess
that's what
you
they
could say,
do.
sometimes you should stick to one and sometimes you should just stick it to everything.
Yeah,
It depends how good you are at doing it.
yeah. And, like Ninty, they're good at platformers, aren't they?
Yeah, it took me a while to realise that Ninty stood for Nintendo.
Favourite gaming generation? Alright then, let's hear what your favourite gaming generation is, fellow gaming minions. Let's hear 'em, come on.
That would be around when right before the Xbox came out. It was like the PS2, the GameCube, and the original Xbox, because that's when I think games first made the leap to like better looking visuals, but they didn't know how to use it yet, so they were still using the this is how we build mechanics and things like that, so that they were still fun and everything. But
I'm still gonna put myself out on the limb. I know it was the last console Sega produced, but I'm totally a Dreamcast fan. Like I think Dreamcast was brilliant, and it was sad that the company folded after that. So I don't think Sega got as much. They didn't play the game as well as the other consoles. Like Nintendo has always had like a tight grasp on the market. But the GameCube, we actually still own a GameCube, and it still holds up well, and it's wonderful. And I love the GameCube too. I can't really actually talk trash about Nintendo, and it's the reason why it lasted so long. But
let's see. Yeah, so I really don't have much to say on
like
game generation.
late 90s, early 2000s
Yeah,
was
even-
really like where
Yeah, because
gaming
that's
was
right
at.
around the same time too. Like the Dreamcast was out, and then
And
the
original
GameCube.
Xbox
Yeah,
and the
that's,
GameCube,
like, all
yeah,
right
so it was
around
right
there,
there.
Yeah.
So I think that was like the best,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
Favorite gaming generations. So this one is actually kind of easy for me because I will always, no doubt, pick the PlayStation Nintendo 64 days. Obviously, that was the generation I grew up in. I had both consoles as a kid, and I freaking loved them. I'll always be a PlayStation girl and a Nintendo girl and an Xbox girl. Okay, my point is I will always choose the original PlayStation and the Nintendo 64. However, I'm also a really huge fan of the PlayStation 2, Xbox, GameCube generation, because the GameCube was also an amazing console with amazing games, and I've had so many amazing memories and nostalgia with that console. But if I absolutely had to pick only one, I would say the Nintendo 64 or PlayStation days, because the graphics were so, at the time, just revolutionary and just amazing, because that was true 3D gaming at its core. A lot of game series went 3D because of it, and honestly, I will always remember those 2 Christmases when I got a PlayStation and a 64, and oh boy, that did not help my gaming passion.
Favorite gaming generations?
Not Sonic Generations, that was shit.
No. So the generations that I know of, or basically the ones that I will label, you had the 2D generation.
2 Dizzle.
You had the 3D generation.
3 Dizzle.
You had the HD generation.
The Dizzle.
And I mean, nowadays, what generation is that? Is it still the HD generation?
I'd say it was still HD, bordering on V-Rizzle.
Yes. So very soon we're gonna have V-Rizzle.
I still think, to be honest, I know, like, I still haven't actually properly tried VR yet.
No,
but like, I think it's still just a gimmick. Like, for me personally, like, even if I've got headphones on and I'm sat at my computer, I'm still like looking over my shoulder now and again. Did I hear something?
Yeah.
Like, to have a full headset on, I wouldn't be able to do it.
Have you seen Ready Player One?
Nope.
It's a movie where, you got your own character
Okay.
inside this world when you put on the headset. So,
We are in the future generation.
yes, but, like you say, I couldn't imagine, alright, I'm going to spend 4 hours with this fucking helmet on
Yeah.
playing this game. It's, maybe augmented reality will become, a part of it, but I don't think VR is going to be the future. I think now we're kind of at the point of the only thing that can really get better are the graphics ever so slightly and the frame rates, but not necessarily the actual... No paradigm shifts. Like I mentioned earlier, the 2D to the 3D, that was the biggest, most monumental paradigm shift definitely in my lifetime of video games.
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to happen anymore. You can add VR, like, completely right what you said. It's going to be a gimmick, VR.
Yeah, I think so. So, going back to the question, 2D, 3D, HD. Bit weird how that's
it would be rude to say that HD wasn't the best generation, because, I mean...
On paper it is.
Look at the games.
More
They look
performance.
fantastic.
It's true.
My most fond memories are of the 3D generation. I mean, just changed the game. But 2D also gets love.
Yeah.
2D gets a lot of love because I
2D
started on 2D.
Yeah, 2D's your side bitch.
Yeah.
But
you love her. It's like the one where it's like, you don't have to worry about her, darling. Don't worry about her.
why did I say that?
Yeah.
I'm exactly with you.
Yeah.
There's all these games up here. Well, those are PS3 games, but you got PS2, PS1, Dreamcast, Saturn, then into 2D side bitch. But we're both on very much on the 3D persuasion.
Thank you guys. I really appreciate and love the fact that many of you actually love the 6th gen, Dreamcast, PS2, Xbox, GameCube, and the 5th gen, which was around PS1 and the N64. I gotta love those times, I absolutely do. So next on the list is story-driven games. Let's see your thoughts on those then, shall we?
I have to say that story and like narrative in games has really taken a leap. Once they were able to start putting in like on PlayStation, like, oh, let's put in this like full motion video or whatever that we can use as a cutscene. They started with like really clunky stories, like, and everything has like an issue when it first starts off, but now to have the interactivity, like Half-Life 2 when that one came out, it was insane that the characters were talking to each other and you could just walk around the room and throw things around or whatever and stuff, so you had to pay attention to them like you were actually there. So like it brought in a more immersive like environment.
Well, I think RPGs have always had kind of story-driven games. Like Final Fantasy is like the biggest one from the beginning. I mean, Phantasy Star kind of had a storyline, but their storylines always have been loosely based.
Yeah.
Even in Phantasy Star Online, it's still loosely based. It's more about the experience, whereas Final Fantasy really was a story-driven game.
Yeah, and it was a very direct story of this.
Even before cutscenes.
Yeah.
like even when it was like 8-bit, 16-bit, you know,
Yeah.
they had a story. Like it was always like, oh, there's espers and you know.
Yeah. So everything had kind of its lore to it.
Yeah, and it's
But it wasn't until like the newer like games and stuff like that where they were able to build upon it. Like Mario had a story, but you had to read the booklet.
yeah, you had to
Because-
read the booklet. You had to read the manual.
Because if you gave Mario to somebody and they had no idea what the story was or anything like that,
They can still play.
and
the
you
game.
just they could still play the game, but they would have no idea like what is this turtle, what is this weird mushroom guy, what's that like dinosaur thing at the end, and like why is he in lava?
And then why all of a
Like-
sudden are you throwing me into riding a dinosaur? Oh, I'm supposed to fight them?
Yeah, and so like now you have like the whole here's a hat, and like the hat talks to you, and like you talk to like characters within the world and stuff.
But it still goes back to the whole princess being freaking kidnapped, which I think is like, okay, that trope is like the story, like the oldest story trope in all of gaming, and like the most used. So it's like so annoying. I hate when the princess gets kidnapped.
I do like though that like, I mean, because that trope is always gonna be there, and there's no way to get around it because it's the simplest call to action. You know what I mean? And so when they did do the like Super Princess Peach, they still used the same trope. It's just it was backwards. Like Mario got kidnapped or something like that, and then you had to go save him as Princess Peach. It's still the same thing, you know. It's just now it's backwards, and like I don't know. I think some people were upset, like why did they have it? And it's like what? Now you're complaining about it after years and years of her getting kidnapped. I still like
the guy has to be kidnapped. Oh, the one time the guy gets kidnapped, you throw. Fuck this shit. It's like, come on.
Yeah. So I don't know. To me,
Someone
it's
getting kidnapped is the easiest call to action. Let's just leave that.
yeah.
But
So I think that the games have improved over the time because they like are able to have stories now, and some games are like even just like I'm playing a movie and I'm in the movie or whatever.
I have said this in interviews and videos of mine. I am a huge fan of storylines. Being a writer, I have always been so fascinated by storyline. I think a really good lore of a series can really captivate me. That's why I'm such a huge fan of the Resident Evil series, because the lore is epic and I love it. But like when I was playing World of Warcraft, for example, I was so fascinated by the deep, rich lore of that game. It's one game, but it has a huge lore. And there's books, a really crappy movie, you name it. But the lore is just amazing. I am a huge sucker for a good story, and if it has an amazing story, I don't care what the graphics are like or how gameplay is. The storyline alone can be amazing, and it will captivate me all the time. However, I also do miss the older days when there wasn't as many cutscenes and it wasn't like basically a interactive movie. I miss the days where it was mostly gameplay with a few cutscenes. Don't get me wrong, but at the same time though, like you know, there back in the Nintendo days, they would put the storylines in the booklets. That was the point of the booklet, was because it would give you instructions on how to play, the story, the characters, whatever you needed to know. It was like it was a manual, basically. And they don't do that anymore because the games are self-explanatory now. But, you know, I do love storyline, but at the same time, though, it's like, I don't want it to impact the gameplay either. You know what I mean?
Story-driven games.
Story-driven
Games
games.
that are driven around by a man called Story.
Oh, what's
yes.
the story? of-
Balamori, when you like to know.
No.
Well, I'm going to tell you.
Okay.
Story-driven games are important because the design of games can only change so much. So to set your platformer apart from the other platformers, you're going to need either some crazy mechanic that is very unique, or you're going to need a great story to inform you and keep the customer coming back to play this game, or, you know, finishing school, and you just want to get home, play this game. You want to see what happens next. It's like your favourite, series or movie. Well, not movie, because you watch that one on one. Your favourite series, you watch one episode, you're like, oh, I need to watch the next one. Or story-driven games are like that. You play one chapter, and you think, oh, I just want to play next. I want to see what happens to this character. Oh, why is this character turned on him? I thought they were best mates. And stuff like that. Oh, he died. How's she going to react?
Yeah, what he said.
Yes, thank you very kindly for giving us your thoughts on these story-driven games. And next on the list is high score games.
High score games, I don't like.
I think we
we always say the arbitrary score.
Yeah, I hate arbitrary scores. I'm like, okay, I will say, okay, I have a dirty secret. He already knows, but I'm huge into shoot 'em up games, and my Space Invaders. Oh my god, I love Space Invaders and Galaga. Those are my two weaknesses. Like, seriously, straight up. If I come into an arcade and they have like a bunch of really good modern games, but then they have that one machine that has Galaga on it, I'm gonna freaking pick Galaga. And I'm gonna be there all fucking night. I will waste all my money on Galaga. Because even though I will never win that game, it's just like the repetitiveness of it, and just like being like thinking, oh god, I got to level like 14, I got to level 20, I got to, like, can go higher and higher on the levels, even though it's the same level, just faster and harder.
Yeah, and then so for me, like, a high score doesn't mean anything to me unless it gives me something. Like when
arcade.
And I really don't even care about that.
I do.
Like, for
my
me,
name on freaking arcade
I have to have
machine.
some sort of reward from it that's not just my name somewhere. Like, because to me that's horse armor. But basically, like, if it gives me, like, okay, it gives me an extra life to try to beat the game, or, like this, it gives me points that I can spend on something to help me in the game, I go, yeah, unless it does that for me, I really don't care.
So, yeah, actually, I'm generally the same. It's only Galaga and, like, Space Invaders that I care about that stuff with. But any other game, I'm just like, yeah, I think it's stupid. Like Sonic, I think it's stupid.
Yeah.
Super Mario Brothers, I think it's stupid. I'm like, I just care about beating the game. I don't care about my score, to be quite honest.
Yeah, yeah, and if I went back and looked, I was like, I don't even know what scores we got on anything.
Arbitrary points.
Yeah, they're just arbitrary points.
High score games. I was never a fan of high score games. I mean, they're fun, don't get me wrong, but I was never that competitive that I would want to like obsessively try to get the highest score and put my name in there. In fact, I never took it seriously because, like, if I was to play Pac-Man or Donkey Kong or anything on the arcade, I would try to spell something like DIK or ASS as my initials, because that's how little I care about high-score games. Are they awesome? I mean, yeah, sure. There are people who like to be competitive with that stuff, and that's awesome. If you like to be competitive and you want the highest score in the whole arcade, you do you, buddy. Me, I don't care. I just want to have a good time, and I just want to play the game, and I want to leave a funny initial while I'm at it.
High score games. No, you're supposed to echo me, Peter.
High school games, you're supposed to echo me, Peter. So, high school games, yeah, competitive.
Yeah.
You want to get to the top of the leaderboard.
These were kind of like the most primitive games, right?
Yeah.
I guess Pong. We're going back right there again.
Yes.
It was just simply a number. You got your score for every point you got. Then you went on to, like, Pac-Man. Yep, sure, same again. Just a point system. Even Tetris. It's just points. It's just about points. I personally can't say that I've ever really been too attached or fond of any high-scoring games like that. I mean, sure, Tetris and stuff, like Time Killers.
Yeah. Looks like I'm the sole proprietor of Retro Session Limited now. Yes.
Limited, for tax reasons.
LLP. So,
was that an accountant's joke?
Yeah. We're funny. Yeah, so we mentioned earlier about story-driven games. It had the story to keep the customer coming back to play the game. Well, high score games they do the same thing with the leaderboard. You're going to keep coming back because you want to be the top of the leaderboard. You want to be you're the monkey that climbs to the top of the tree and gets the bananas. That's what you want. But for me personally, I just wanted to complete the game.
I tell you what, I think that the main thing for high score games is because it was primarily before the internet and sharing your games and your memory cards and stuff. You could go into school the next day and go, lads, just got 260 points on fucking...
I said, oh, fuck off, did you?
No, you didn't. Barry!
No, I did. Ask my brother's cousin, mate.
Yeah, he plays Mizpat Lady, man.
Yeah.
But that's a really good thing.
Definitely, 100%.
Keeping track of your progress via a number.
Yeah, I didn't think of that. Yeah, nowadays you can just upload a video and show the world how quickly you completed something. But yeah, the high score, that was how you tell. And because games were so primitive back then, you needed some replayability.
Yeah.
So the replayability was trying to get your score higher.
Get your score up. And your dick.
Thank you guys for sharing your thoughts on high score games, and now we're on another good one. Modern video games. I would love to hear your opinions on modern video games, if that's okay with you.
Well, we do. Okay, everyone tries to lump us as the retro gaming, and I think it's because people have a misconception about what our channel is about. Our channel isn't about retro games. Our channel is technically following a series.
Yeah.
So we are technically trying to play as many games as possible, but we want to go through the history of the game. So we start at the first game. So that's a retro game. But eventually we want to get to the modern game. But some of these games have been going on for as long as we've been alive. So it's a lot of ground to cover.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard to be like...
And we also have technical limitations like capture cards for like the newer games that are like on a Switch and an Xbox One.
We actually don't have any capture cards right now. But eventually we're going to get them once we get up to the... And funnily enough, we haven't really reached the modern games yet.
Yeah, like we're barely at the PlayStation, and I still have to get an N64 that works.
Well, we got the Game Boy Advance to work, so that's actually from early 2000s. So we're starting to get closer and closer to the modern game series.
Yeah. Like some series that we have are like on break just because we don't have the equipment and things.
Oh, like our Super Mario Brothers. We can't really go back to Super Mario Brothers right now because we need the 64.
Which I was trying to get the DS to work, and that doesn't work either. So, but yeah, for modern games and stuff like that, it's like not all of them have something to build on, but a lot of them do, and it's like the only reason that I think a lot of modern games exist now is because of what came before them, and like learning from mistakes and like being able to build upon what works, and Though I do have to say there are some modern games, like he just got me for Christmas Outer Worlds and Kingdom of Hearts 3. Now technically the first Kingdom of Hearts isn't that old as some of the other games we play, but it is the third in the series, so it has a learning curve. Outer Worlds, though, is the first in its series, but technically the developers from that were from the original Fallout, and so they've used some of the stuff they used from Fallout in Outer Worlds. So I think
it's all technically, all games nowadays, even if you look at Undertale, which was really successful, Undertale took a lot of 80s gaming ideas and experiences and encapsulated that and put it into a modern gaming fandom, which is amazing.
And I think that's a lot too now of like indie games, just like an indie game.
Indie games, we hardly ever touch upon that, but we need to.
Yeah, and it's like the one person kind of like, I made this game myself. It's very easy for them to build things in a modern sense, but somebody that doesn't have like necessarily the artistic skill or stuff like that to be able to go and be like, I'm gonna build it in a retro style.
Yeah. Well, even if you technically look at FNAF, you know, Five Nights at Freddy's, they didn't use, like, technically most of the game is actually really artistically well done. But the storyline is very nostalgic. Because it's set in the 80s.
Yeah.
And, like, I think everything kind of ties in together. But I think a lot of kids nowadays, of course, when you're a kid, when you experience something, it's brand new, it's modern, you don't think of there being a connection or a historical aspect to it. Technically, it's all history. And some people forget about the history when they're brought up with the modern.
Yeah, because to them, where they started, that's where the history is.
That's where the history begins.
Yeah.
With us, because we grew up at the time that we did, we got to see the history being made in video gaming, which is why it's exciting to us.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, kids nowadays, I hate to sound old, kids nowadays.
Peter! Modern video games.
Modern video games.
Now then, we're Retro Sesh. This is Pete. My name is Mike. We fucking love retro video games. I'm going to go ahead and say primarily. Love retro game. Bleh. But we do like modern games as well.
Of course we do.
Of course we do. We're only human.
Or are we dancers?
Nope. Shit song. The Witcher 3 is probably one of my most famous recent ones. I know everyone watching has just gone, oh, everybody says that, but it's fucking amazing. It's a masterpiece. It's awesome. Along with, I mean, I guess you could push, say, Spyro, the Reignited trilogy.
Yeah.
Technically, it's a modern game.
Technically, it is just a carbon copy of the old one.
Yeah, and then Tomb Raider as well.
Yeah, but they are new games, aren't they?
They are new games. The storylines are different. They're completely remade. And fucking masterpieces yet again. So, there you go. That's my bit. That's my input. Retro games are, you know, we've got nostalgia for them. They're on systems that we know and love. There's millions of them, so there's no shortage. It gives you a sense of collection and worth when you do have a shelf full of them. Yeah, so I prefer retro games. Modern games are all right though. Pete, what?
So for modern games, I mean the most modern console I have a PS3 and a Wii U. So the Wii U is the most newest one. Most newest one, yeah. The newest game I have on it is PES 2018. And I think I just got that.
Quite new.
I think I got that just for novelty because it's like quite a new game on the PS3 and it's one of my favourite franchises. So I kind of got that.
How does it play?
Yeah, it plays good.
Yeah?
Yeah, it plays good. And it's the last.
Did you say you got that on the Wii U?
No, I got it on the PS3.
On the PS Triple. Okay.
So yeah, quite a new game.
So that sounds like it would have been one that was actually on the PS4 as well.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
Okay.
And that's kind of the novelty behind it. But the most modern game, I have on the Wii U is Super Mario 3D World, which is fucking fantastic.
And you destroyed it, right?
Yeah.
Completed it.
Handy P.
Really?
Yeah. All
Look
the badges.
at this guy.
All the fucking hidden packages.
Okay, thank you guys for touching on the modern video game aspect of things. Now let's go into the retro video games.
On that point of like the retro games, like we're used to what is it called, the matrixing, like where we're able to like make this square is this thing.
Oh yeah, like I watch some of the stuff now. I've watched some of the stuff and I'm like, technically if you look at that, it's just a bunch of like pixelated mess.
Yeah,
it's like a Monet. Up close it's just a mess, but we're used to matrixing, so we see the faces, we see the people, we see the things behind the squares.
Yeah. And it's funny because actually when the Xbox first came out and I got one, me and my friends would play Halo and we were like walking around in like the areas and just been like, this grass looks amazing, look at all this stuff, and I'm like shiny and like and I went and got,
it's like I could touch it.
And I went back and because we got the anniversary edition and I was playing it, I was like, oh, this looks pretty cool, and I was like so this is what it, and then there's you can push a button or something like that and it puts it in the old style like how it was on the original Xbox. And I was like, oh my god, this looks like crap.
They touched it up. No, you know what? The same thing happened to me with Phantasy Star, because there was like a little bit of a gap between me playing it. And so I thought it was like, oh my god, this is so well done, it's beautiful, and blah blah blah. And then I come back to it, and I'm like, oh my god, this is like so like looks 90s. Like, why did I think this? And then I'm just like, oh my god, it is not very beautifully detailed as like I thought it was.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's detailed, but it's like it's not beautiful.
Yeah, and like I look at it now, and it's like my brain filled in all the stuff that I see now in the like the anniversary and remastered editions. That I'm like, why did I think it looked like that? It doesn't. It looks nothing like that. And so yeah, I think that's something that the games benefited from back then, was that like we could like envision, oh, this is what they're doing, and then my brain fills in those little gaps that are there and stuff like that. And we forgive things like polygon clipping and like, just other random things like that, like, oh, the camera goes through his head when it does this or whatever. I'm like, whatever. Nowadays it's like it does this, it's annoying, and it's like, it's fun. What does it matter? So.
My Whiterun bursts of dragging corpse. It's still fun. I need to get a video of that. I'm
a huge fan of retro games. So I didn't really grow up with the NES, and I had little interaction with the SNES, but I mean, looking back though, I mean, Super Mario World is still one of my favorite side-scrolling games ever. That was the game that was one of the first games I've ever owned, and there's a lot of good memories behind that. I know by now, like, they consider, like, I think, what was it, PlayStation 2, first Xbox, GameCube to be retro too, which I don't know if I agree with that. I consider retro to be like NES and Atari, for example. That's like really retro. I love retro though, because like I said, it shows where we started off in the industry and how it's progressed to where we are now. It is the it is the foundation of where we are now. I will always have a deep love and respect for retro gaming, because I think, like with anybody, it's all about the nostalgia. A lot of people were kids when they played these games, and now that they're older and games are different, it's nice to look back and just appreciate how simple everything was. In fact, I can still watch someone play a SNES game and still be mesmerized by the graphics. Donkey Kong Country, for example, that trilogy has the most amazing graphics for that machine, and honestly, it is still very, very mind-blowing to me.
Retro video games.
This
is our fucking speciality, isn't it?
Fuck off.
We're the retro gamers.
I like the way as soon as it's like retro games, we're like, oh yeah, okay, let's get into it. Energy levels are up.
Before it's like, let's get through these fucking questions with Dr. Virtual fucking harassing us. And now we get on to... No, you're cool. Retro video games. This is where it all started for us.
It is.
To us, they're not really retro. This is just games.
This is just
games.
Yep. We've got shelves of them. I mean, I said it a little bit earlier because it's quite hard to touch on modern games without giving a whiff at the retro ones. But the thing is, for us, I understand why modern people. Can you imagine a 16-year-old going out getting a Dreamcast and buying a load of games for it? One, a lot of games are overpriced. Like a lot of the Skies of Arcadia, Power Stone, things like that. You're talking 25, 30 quid for a game that's 20, 40 years old. 20 to 40 years old, depending on the system, of course. But, like, you're not going to be able to brag to your mates, oh yeah, I've just fucking done this. They're all playing Fortnite and shit.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Save it for the next question. But the point is that for us and people around our age, or at least old enough to have a console that is an older one that is now considered retro, you can buy stuff for it, you can collect it, and it makes you feel good. You can go back and you can buy games that you didn't have enough money for when you were a kid, and you can see what they're like, and you can buy them and you can own them now. It's awesome. Not to mention, like, I mean, nowadays you've got the Xbox controller, you've got the PlayStation controller. They both got two sticks on them. They both got buttons. Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
the Switch is an exception. It gives an utterly unique experience, and it's really good at doing that. I fucking love that piece of hardware, and it's way too expensive for me to own. But my point is that this controller design has been the same for many years, and of course they evolved it a little bit. But let's just dig a couple out here. Look at the fucking difference in design in these.
Yeah.
Like, each console offered a completely unique experience.
Yeah.
And as we've realised recently in our Rainbow Six and Hidden and Dangerous videos, this controller, even though it is my favourite, even despite this, why is that so bright? Despite its flaws as being shit at first-person gamers, because it doesn't have an extra analog stick. But it's still my favourite. You've got a screen in it, memory card, you can exchange some mobile packs out, but it just offers such a unique experience that you can't get.
Yeah, such a good point. Really good point about the difference in controllers. You did feel like you were playing something different.
Yeah.
An Xbox and a PS4 nowadays is like you're going to choose between them based on maybe specs, based on maybe what games they have, but back in the day you could choose it on the controller, choose it on
Whether you want a cartridge or disc.
Exactly, yeah.
Well, there's so many different things. I think primarily people nowadays will just buy whatever their mates are playing.
Yeah,
because ultimately you want to play games with your mates. I would probably be a stubborn bastard and still go for a PlayStation over an Xbox, even if all my friends had
I would never own
Xboxes.
another Xbox.
But I guess I was. Because all you guys were playing PlayStation games and I was just here rocking a PC.
Yeah.
So I guess I did do that anyway. But still, there you go. Retro video games. You got it all!
Thank you very much, gang, for your retro gaming thoughts. And now, let's go into your gaming dislikes. Thoughts. What do you dislike in gaming?
From right now, I would say the gaming thing is
Broken games.
broken games.
Straight up.
Like
selling a broken game.
Yeah.
And then expecting people to pay extra for the DLC.
Yeah.
That fixes it.
Yeah.
Like, straight up.
I hate the fact that DLC exists. To me, if
microtransactions
I do not
are
like
the
that.
bane of my freaking exit. I fucking hate microtransactions. I think
Yeah, I understand it as a business model, like it has how it would be a good thing, but
the developers are still getting treated like shit.
Yeah.
Like the ones that work. Oh, come on. Let's say it like it is. Let's be brutally honest. The only people who really utilize the microtransactions are the big name companies. The companies that really do not take care of their employees, that treat them like shit. And the ones that eventually end up being like bruised, broken, and everything else that end up becoming those indie game developers.
Yeah.
You know? Like, straight up.
So, like, that's one thing. Another thing, I don't like the fact that we don't have media for games where I don't have... Like, I have to have an internet connection in order to play a game now.
Oh, Stadia?
Yeah, like...
To me is a joke. Why are we coming up with this technology when our internet can't even handle that?
Yeah, and
then again, you don't get to end up owning technically that game when you do buy it through an online streaming service.
Yeah.
That's not your game. That's not your copy.
Yeah, like when you have to connect to the internet or when you have to have the internet to download the rest of your game, I go, that's just crap.
Yeah.
So, and then I would like to say for the one last thing that I dislike in gaming is the whole like gender equality thing of like women, like they call them like booby streamers, and like they can't do things without being seen as, oh, you're a girl gamer, so you're either like bad at games or you're someone for me to just look at, not expect you to play games and things like that. I think those are still, we were saying like way back in the day, there's the trope of like the princess got kidnapped, all that stuff. It's still at a point where we haven't we have the badass girl that like does this or whatever in the game, but she still has to be over sexualized and things like that.
Yeah. Well, the thing that annoys me are like the fake gamer girls. The girls that are like, oh, I can make money leading, like, I don't know, like there's certain people
And
out there that
part of the problem of why
they're the reason why this idea
of
exists.
the booby streamer and
Yes,
thing like that.
like the original booby streamers
yeah.
are the people I don't like. It doesn't mean though that I don't like women who show things. Honey, if you got it,
Yeah.
who cares?
Yeah, I like...
I'm like, I don't care if you got boobs. I got boobs.
Yeah.
I got boobs. I don't care.
So, yeah, I post the girls that are like, oh, like, check this out. I'm in, like, this super tiny bikini thing or whatever. It's like, yeah, but that has nothing to do with the game that they're playing. When they play the game, they're, like, really good at the game and, stuff like that. So, to me, I don't see any issue with that.
Okay, this is my favorite story. I used to Game Shark. So I would go to arcades when I was like 11, 12 years old. And I would pretend, like I would play the arcade game and wait till like some kid would walk up. And it was usually a boy, I'll be honest. Who would come up and they would watch me play. So I'd purposely start losing to get them, like, because usually what would happen is they would only put their coin in if they saw me losing, because they wanted just to kick someone's ass, and I hated that. I thought that was horrible. So I purposely teach them a lesson. I would lose, they put their coin in, and then I would kick their ass, and it was so satisfying. And I know that's horrible, but I used to do that so much, and it was like, so that's why I have like fond memories of Mortal Kombat, because I would do that mostly with that game at the arcade that was by my house. And it was so hilarious when that kid be like, son of a bitch, come on, ass handed to me by a girl. It's like, that's right, you take that. Granted, it was in the 80s, so boys thought they could play better than girls. so it was like, I felt like Wonder Woman. For one little moment. But sorry.
What I dislike about gaming nowadays is mostly how the gaming industry tries to rip their consumers off. I'm not a fan of DLC. I'm not a fan of loot crates or whatever they call them. Games like Fortnite where you have to keep buying things, and I don't like that. Okay, I liked the simpler days when you could go to like Walmart and pick out a game from the case and take it home, and it was a finished, completed project. Imagine buying a book and reading it and then realizing there's like DLC. I don't know, like there's an add-on to that book, but it's part of but they added it to the original book, and then they're selling that at full retail price next to the standard copy. Rip off. It's like, that's cool. I mean DLCs are actually kind of fun. DLCs are kind of fun. I mean, yeah, you get a game and then there's extras to come out, but most of the time you have to buy them. And it's like, I feel like if you're going to have DLC, it should at least be free if you purchase the game. I don't know, but I don't think it's fair that a lot of things, especially like characters or outfits or whatever, guns, whatever they sell for DLC, it's individually priced as well. I just think the gaming industry knows how to rip its consumers off. And as a gamer, that really pisses me off. Like, I don't want to buy an unfinished product. I don't want to play something and then wait months for DLC to come out that I have to pay for. I don't like that. If I'm gonna play a game, I want to enjoy the whole thing. I want to enjoy a finished product. And I think the gaming industry knows that, and they're being greedy. And if you're someone who works in the gaming industry, I'm not sorry, because you know what you're doing. Other than that, modern gaming is great.
Pete, what you dislike in gaming? What you dislike in gaming?
I hate when I buy a game and then to get extra features in the game I have to pay.
Yeah.
ePay Sports. It's in their wallets. I'm not used to that. When I used to buy games, I used to buy the game and unlock. If there was like unlockable extras, unlock them.
Yeah.
But now it's like, oh, buy this game. Oh, some new levels been released. That's another 30 quid. Well, isn't that just like another new game? I'm going to go out and buy another different game for 30 quid. Other thing I don't like about gaming, I'm starting to see, is about, I'm going to say 10 years ago, they started making games with special editions. So let's make, for instance, let's see, Call of Duty.
Yep.
Okay, so I bought Call of Duty Modern Warfare, and there was a special edition, and I think Mike's looking for it.
Yeah, it's at the top there.
So with the Ultra Mega Super Uber edition, you got this. A fucking night vision goggle set. Okay, Modern Warfare 2. You can see that on the camera. Yeah, you get that with the game. Okay, so that's cool. If you... I'll come back in the video before I start talking. Yeah, so that's cool. If you want to spend the extra and get that, you can get that, okay? So you get kind of used to that. And then a special edition comes out nowadays, and the extras are not physical items, but it's just a steelbook, which is kind of cool. But not paying like an extra 40 quid for that. And DLC. It's like, come on.
Yeah.
Come on, I'm paying you money.
I had an instance of this, not me personally, sorry, but I know of an instance, Sonic Mania. Really good, actually. They did such a good job on the game itself. The music was spot on. It was nostalgic, but yet modern. The game, like, design was very modern. It had reflections and stuff like that. But all the designs were very blocky. Like Minecraft, if you can imagine that, but more textured. So it catered literally for everything. And, of course, it was on modern systems. They did a collector's edition. It came with a statue of Sonic. Pretty cool. You put it on the shelf, whatever.
Nice.
It even came with the game in a box. But you open the box, download code, not even a physical copy of the game.
Yeah.
Another instance of this, I think Emprix, actually. Shout out Emprix if you're watching this.
Emprix.
Emprix said that there was the version of Spyro, the Reignited trilogy, when that came out, the physical game inside the thingy was just Spyro 1. You had download codes for 2 and 3.
Oh my lord.
But one of my most, and it kind of fits into this as well, one of my most hated things about gaming, when we were younger, years ago.
Many
moons ago. As a PC kind of gamer, you would have to put the disc in, you would have to install it, blah, blah, blah.
I remember those days.
The
Jesus.
perks of being a console gamer, whang the disc in and you're off. That's it. Because they finished the game, it didn't need to get patched. If it was bodgy, they would have to delay it until they got it right, or they suffered the wrath of the game getting fucking destroyed by the media and their fans. People actually had something on the line. Whereas now, it's just, fuck it, release the game, we'll patch it if we need to.
Completely forgot about this. I mean, my sentiments exactly.
Yeah.
When I moved from the PS2 to the PS3, I was like, oh, cool, HD gaming, this is class. Put in a game, it's going to take an hour to install all the files onto the PS3.
Yeah.
Like,
and it's only worse in later generations. I mean, just so you guys know, I mean, we have said earlier, but Pete and I, the most modern console we have is a PS3. Pete's got a Wii U as well. But on modern games, PS4s and Xbox One S's and all that, of course the games on those are like 50 to 60 gig. And it's almost like the disc itself, literally just has the crack, if you like, or to play the game. And then the rest of it is just completely downloaded to the hard drive, which then fills the hard drive up as well, which should have been an SSD from the start.
As a young ute, I used to play this game for 30 minutes. Then, all right, I'm going to play another game for 30 minutes. Right, you can't do that on the modern consoles because you have to delete the game data from one game to install
especially
the new
if you just got like the arcade version or the little one with the 60 gigabyte hard drive in.
Yeah.
You have no chance.
Yeah, so just like that. Paywalls, you're a bitch.
Can you describe what a paywall is?
So,
because I know there's pay to win.
Yeah.
As in somebody who else is in a game pays money, they get a better gun and then can kill you quicker. And then, of course, you get things that will aesthetically make you nicer, but actually not make you excel at the game, which is fine. If you want to pay extra money to have a cape that says "fuck you" on the back, you be the. So what's a paywall?
Paywall is essentially the same thing, but it's almost like you pay to win is like you pay to win, but paywall is like you can't really get into this mission before owning this house.
As in, it's impossible.
So
you've bought the game. You get to a certain point in the game. Where it says, "Can you give us now money for this?"
Or it's like, oh, this mansion costs 15 billion coins, and you'll never amass that, so you literally must pay. It's almost a wall.
Right.
Okay. And when I say dislike about pricing, another thing is in the retro community, a lot of the games have shot up. Games that I have bought for like £1 that can't be sold before are now worth like, 100 quid. But you can't fault that. It's the market. It's supply and demand, as of any other community. So I will not fault that, even though it's a bit of a pain in the ass.
And there's some modern games. There was a Switch game, I think it was, where the print was slightly off. And like the first 50 to 100 copies of this game, I can't even remember what it was,
Right.
had a misprint on the front or whatever. They're fucking worth hundreds now.
Yeah.
They corrected it super quick, but if you got one of those, Metal Jesus did a video on it. It was quite funny. I think he got one actually, unknowingly.
Right.
He went to the shop. He really wanted the game, got it on release, thus got one of the first 100 copies of it, and blah.
So basically, stop making us pay more for money and create games that are good upon release.
Yeah.
That's all you have to do, guys.
I mean, actually, when you think about it, give us what we pay for.
Yes.
And make sure you're good at it before you do it.
Yes. That's simple.
Basic shit.
Ignore the last 20 minutes.
TLDR.
Yeah.
Do your fucking job.
Exactly.
Thank you very much, guys, for talking about your experience with your dislikes. I really appreciate that. If you've made it this far into the video, you deserve a nice big pat on the back. I'm pretty sure it's not been easy to last in there this long, especially on one of my videos. Now the next bit is to cover what is your favourite consoles.
For me, my favorite consoles are still probably the Super Nintendo.
I have a lot of favorite it's kind of hard for me to pick because there's a lot of consoles that have iconic games on it for me.
Yeah.
That I just really love.
Yeah, I think basically anything that came out from Nintendo other than the Virtual Boy and the Wii's. I'm still not really a big fan of the Wii's.
I love the original Wii. I don't like the Wii U.
Yeah.
I don't know why I like the original Wii. I like the original Wii, but I liked it because it brought it actually helped with working out. It had yoga on there. And I thought it was the balance pad was the most brilliant thing, really. You can actually correct your posture by using the Wii. Mm-hmm. I think that was brilliant. And then it also created, I think it was the foreground for the Kinect being brought along, which also helps people too, because there's Just Dance, and I love the Just Dance series.
Yeah, I think more interactivity with your body, that's what brought things up.
I think that's good, yeah.
But yeah, I'll still say, the Switch right now I really like.
The Switch is I really love the Switch.
I like being able to play on the TV.
I think that was
the
brilliant thing that Nintendo did. You know what? Nintendo is usually really brilliant with their consoles because they don't have huge processors on the Nintendos. So the Nintendo when they release the Nintendos, they always release it at a price that is very affordable. Honestly, Switch, hands down, when it was release date, was way cheaper than PS4 on its release date, than Xbox One on its release date. It was so affordable.
Yeah.
We remembered when the Game Boy came out. The Game Boy was so affordable. It was $99.
Yeah.
Even though it sounds bad considering back then, but consoles back then still were expensive. Even if you was a Neo Geo was $1,000 back then.
Yeah, that's
back then
3DOs and things like that.
Yeah.
That's why game systems those didn't really last all that long.
No, but Nintendo has always held up because they've always made it affordable.
Yeah, they've always been affordable. They always have fun games. They always release with a good library right off the bat. They're not afraid to let's stop and not do this yet. We need to make sure that if we have to push this back, it's going to be for a good reason.
They always make it so that the actual technology of the console is not at the most advanced. But when they work on a game, they push that technology to its absolute breaking limit without breaking the game.
Yeah.
Donkey Kong Country was groundbreaking, but technically the console it was on was not, because they found a way to make it seem groundbreaking, but they used little tricks to create that effect, which was really cool. It didn't need a lot of memory. You don't need a lot of memory to play Nintendo games.
Yeah.
Because compared to, like, if you take anything, like, from the Switch and compare it to, like, the stats of memory that you need for, like, Xbox Ones and PS4s, it's ridiculous the gap between them.
Yeah. Yeah, so I would have to say Nintendo.
But my personal favorite was Dreamcast.
Yeah.
Dreamcast was my favorite. And then GameCube. GameCube was actually really good. But I didn't experience GameCube until recently, so. And I'm kind of sad I didn't experience that when it first came out.
Once again, another unfair question. I couldn't tell you what my favorite console is because I like all of them. I literally grew up with every console I could get my hands on. I had a SNES, I had a PlayStation, I had a Nintendo 64, I had an Xbox, I had a PlayStation 2, I had a GameCube, I had an Xbox 360, I had a PS4, I had an Xbox One, I have a PC. I have owned at least 10 consoles in my life. I've owned a DS, I've owned a 3DS, I've owned a PSP. I've had so many games in my life. I've had so many consoles in my life that I could not pick one. However, that being said, and I've also owned a Wii too. That being said though, honestly, I will, because I consider myself a PlayStation girl. I really do. I freaking love the PlayStation, dude. I've always loved the PlayStation since the very first one. However, Nintendo will always have a special place in my heart. And I would narrow it down to GameCube and 64. However, for nostalgia's sake, I would choose the 64 as my all-time favorite console of all time. But that doesn't mean anything because, like I said, I have loved every console I could ever get my hands on. I guess the 64 is just something that I would do it. I prefer it for nostalgia reasons.
Pete, what's your favourite console? My fucking cold is gigging on my arse. What's your favourite console?
My favourite console is the Super Nintendo Entertainment System.
SNES.
That is, yeah. I've got many consoles that I have so many fond memories with.
So is this purely based on the nostalgicness?
It is based on nostalgia.
What about the SNES makes it your favourite?
The thing about the SNES is I started off with the NES, and the NES games, they were good, but I was 3-4 years old, so everything was fucking good.
It's true.
You know, something I could play with, it was good.
Yeah.
Okay. The SNES just brought out the vibrancy, and it just added music, and
because that's what Nintendo do best. I think you agree. Is they make things look super colourful, make it super pleasing to the eye, and especially a child who is stimulated by really colourful things and stuff. Man, it's a pool of ecstasy.
Yeah, so it really just like give that shift. I was like, I was a toddler. And then I was like a boy, and I became a boy that day when I played the SNES.
So in India or Africa, wherever it is, they have to send their sons out to grab the tail of a lion to prove that they're now a man. But as far as Pete's concerned, pick yourself up a SNES, guys.
Exactly.
You're good to go.
Yeah. It was the first one I had with like loads of games on it, so I had like loads of choice to play. So it's like, it seemed to me at the time unlimited fun. It was a big shift from the NES.
A new speed shift from the NES.
It was. It was a big shift for me. And I just remember that way. It's just my fun. I just put in a game and play.
Why did you say game like you were Scottish?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
Why did you just put in a game?
A glitch in the system.
God, if only someone asked me what my favourite
console was. A ghost in a
was.
shell. So that's that question. No, Michael. What are your favourite consoles, and what is your favourite console?
My favourite consoles, very similar to yours. When I got my PS2,
yeah,
mwah.
Okay,
one system, you got it in front of your TV, you got PS1 games, you got PS2 games, you got a DVD player, you got a CD player. As a teenager,
okay,
that in your room, man, you're a stud, man. You got your chicks coming over, you got your friends coming over, you play games, you listen to music, watch movies, you're never getting out of bed.
Yeah.
It's just a one-stop shop for fucking entertainment.
Yeah.
And it's great.
Didn't even think about that. That DVD feature on the PS2.
It's fucking life-changing. Literally life-changing.
Yeah.
So there you go. My favourite console is the PS2. But it's not. Because even though it does technically tick every box, and I could not live without one now I've owned one,
Yeah.
my favourite console is the Dreamcast. It was just the most innovative thing. Anyone who's followed Retro Sesh for any amount of time probably knows our answers to this anyway, to be honest. But it's the Dreamcast. It just puts the biggest smile on my face. You turn it on, you see the swell come round. It just tickles every nostalgic bastard on the back of my neck. It's got an amazing, load of games, even though the cases are somewhat dubiously made. And I love it. I can't answer it. It's not the best at anything.
Yeah.
The PS2 was better at 3D. It didn't play DVDs. Sure, you could put VMUs and funny screens on the front of it, but it was all gimmicky, really. But I fucking love it. It's like Japanese wackiness. It's just about having fun, not necessarily making a product that was ticking all the boxes.
Yeah. Even though a lot of the games did. I mean, classics.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
Yeah. So your Dreamcast, I did say SNES as a nostalgia, but I mean now you mentioned a PS2. I mean I might want to change that.
Oh,
It's
I guess
tough.
it's the same.
Yeah,
it's the same. If you had one
my
console
God,
you had
it's
to
so
live
tough.
with, it might be that.
Alright, thank you very much for answering that one, guys, about your favourite consoles. Really nice answers there. Now tell us about your online gaming experiences.
I think that the internet technically hindered gaming. I know that's a horrible thing to say. I think the internet, there's always pros and cons to everything, and so I do like the fact that the internet has brought the gaming community together more. Because when I was growing up, it was like, oh, you play video games? Oh, you must be a loser or a nerd or something that we need to bully you for being. Oh, it must mean that you're socially awkward. No, it doesn't mean that. It just means there's not very many people who game in my physical community.
Yeah.
But internet came up and I was able to make friends with people and create my own community.
Yeah.
But technically it's like internet has just ruined like the actual gaming
To me,
experience.
The internet has ruined the experience of the game, not the experience that I have with the people that play the games.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Thank you. Well said.
Yeah. Now you have greater connectivity to people.
You know what? I've never played an MMO.
I've played
Technically, I mean, I tried playing Elder Scrolls Online, but to me that was really so broken, and I don't think that was a really good experience with an MMO.
Yeah,
technically,
I would say we still have to go back to it to see if they've improved like how things are, but yeah, it was broken.
It was really broken. When you're jumping into a cave and you have like people who are already like level 80 just standing there trying to kill the noobs.
Yeah, that's the one thing I don't like.
I'm like, yeah, no. I honestly, I think online gaming, I never got into Halo. I dated a guy who was really big into Halo, but he pretty much used it just to like talk shit with people. And I'm like, I'm not really into that scene. I think that's what we would do. I did meet like a lot of cool people through playing online like that on Halo, and and some other games like Gears of War. Like Call of Duty doesn't appeal to me.
But yeah,
like those shoot 'em up games, or the games that you play online against other people and you actually battle over people, and then all you do is like trash talk. I'm not into trash talking. I honestly, you may say, I've seen your channel, I think otherwise, because I'm always like nagging him, but honestly, that's not really
and honestly, it's really weird because, as like how you say, you're a competitive person.
Yeah.
Online gaming, we don't really enjoy the experience of competitiveness.
No.
We more like the collaboration of things. Like if we were to play Minecraft online with somebody, it's like, let's build
fun.
this together.
Like get competitive about like having a building challenge. That's so much better in my mind than like, let me go shoot some people up.
Yeah, because like in those kinds of things, I don't see it as a win-loss thing. It's like we're both creating something.
Yeah, it's like fun.
Yeah.
I mean, you could get competitive, but you don't have to like trash talk someone because you're not really technically like, oh, I killed you. You know.
Yeah.
It's like, no, it's not that. That's not the creative process. When you put yourself in a competitive atmosphere where you're doing something creative, it's a lot different than when you're in a collaborative environment, but you're doing something destructive. I think it's the destruction thing. It's like it's not as fun to me. Except if it was Minecraft where you light stuff on fire after you create them, I don't mind that. But it's like, oh, I created this thing. Now let's destroy it. That'd be fun. But like where you're shooting people up, it's like no.
Yeah, it's funny because like when I did meet those people that I would play games with, like to play Halo. It's like, okay, we're on a team, you know, so I felt like I was part of a team and we would play games and stuff like that, but at the same time, other than if like none of them were online, I never went online because I didn't have those people. Yeah. And it's like right from the get-go, like I attached to these people and then I never really venture out from that point on. I'll maybe find one person or, you know, stuff like that. But like sometimes I would see them all online and I would put myself like away from the Xbox or something like that and I'd go play a different game. So they wouldn't bug me, like, come play Halo with us. And it's like, but I didn't want to.
I though have a feeling that I probably would have loved WoW. But
possibly.
I never got into it because it was too expensive at the time for me to get into. Because you had to buy a pass back in the day, and then you had to have internet and all this stuff. And back then, I was poor, starving college student, and I didn't even have TV for the longest time to begin with. I had a computer. I technically did have internet, but it wasn't anything to write home about. I mean, I spent all my money on the internet, so it was like I didn't have money for anything else.
Yeah, and then to me, the thing that like that put me off from it was the fact that it had all these expansion packs that kept coming out and coming out.
Yes, and it's the whole DLC. I think WoW was like the precursor to microtransactions. They're the whole reason why. Yeah. I swear to God, World of Warcraft is the whole reason why we have stupid DLC and microtransactions. So annoying.
Online gaming experience. I haven't really had too much of an experience playing online, mostly because I kind of have social anxiety. I don't like going out in public very often. I don't like being in large crowds of people. And when I do, I get very, very easily overwhelmed and stressed out. And honestly, it's not a good time for me. Online is kind of like that for me because luckily for me, I've never had any bad experiences online. I've heard stories from girlfriends who've been harassed, been sexually harassed, or have been called really horrible things. So I've always been very guarded when it comes to online play. I just don't want to ever put myself in a situation where I'm attacked like that, which is ironic because I do YouTube and I put myself out there all the time to be attacked. Honestly, I would love a good online game that I could play with other people, and I mentioned before I used to play World of Warcraft, which was fine, but I didn't interact with anybody. I didn't have a mic or headphones or anything, and when I tried Fortnite for a while, I couldn't hear what anyone was saying because I didn't want to talk to them. So yeah, I'm all for online gaming, but I'm also for positive communities. And that's asking for a lot because a lot of people who game online are toxic people. And yeah, I like to be a positive person. I don't want to surround myself with toxicity because I've lived with it so much in my life. I would rather game with just friends, honestly. I would rather just game with really good friends, family members, maybe even acquaintances, but I don't ever want to game with strangers because I don't want to set myself up for personal attacks.
Online gaming experiences.
Online gaming experiences.
Thank you. Alan's debuff. Okay, I'm going to touch on it briefly first because mine's going to be short. I have not played a lot of...
I thought you were just going to touch on it briefly.
There we go. I have not played I've not done a lot of online gaming. I remember when I had a PS2, online gaming was about, but it really wasn't.
Yep.
And when I got the PS3, I was like, wow, I'm playing online now. I played Resistance for a bit, and then I just started playing different games, and everyone was just so much fucking better than me.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to think I was quite a good gamer, and then I used to play online, I'm like, I am fucking shit compared to most of the world.
And now we've like started recording our games and putting them on, and we're playing games we've never played, and we like can't even get past the first level. We're like, we are really shit.
Thank you for your help, Twitch viewers.
Sorry, carry on online.
So I don't have a great history of it. I remember a lot of when I first started playing online as well. It was like PS3. I'm wrestling fans, played wrestling games, and they're buggy as hell anyway. And the online was just so laggy. Yeah, it was teething problems, but still, it was just so laggy, and I couldn't be bothered to play online because there was a lot of, especially at the beginning, there was people cheating, there's people glitching, there's people disconnecting when they were losing. It's like, well, this just isn't a fair playing field. So I really stayed away. I might have, I played a few games online, but I've really stayed away from that.
And I guess I'll go on to my negatives first. PvP, kind of what Pete was saying, hackers, people like that making you like. I have said before, when I play a game, it's because I've had a tough day or whatever. I want to chill out. I want to have fun. If I'm playing GTA, I want to be this big muscly badass with 2 sawn-off shotguns kicking ass and shit. I don't want to be destroyed. I know it sounds really pussyish, right? But it does. No. But like that's just what I get from a game. And I know that there are some people who literally just play games for a challenge, and they like to earn their way up the leaderboard, even though they are 600th best at that one race in that one car. It makes them feel really good when they get the next number up, and I can 100% see that. Please, we are not judging you. We're not saying you're shit people because of it. It's just what we take from a game. It's not all bad though, Pete.
Right.
I played, unlike you, who started on PS3 online gaming, I was PC online gaming.
You were already way ahead of the curve on
Kind of,
online.
a little bit, yeah, because I was talking to Americans and stuff, I was staying up late, and I was making friends online. We were playing games together, MMOs and things like that. That culture is awesome. It's fucking so much fun, and it's great when you've got a band of people that you can run around with and have a laugh.
Yes.
Because it does feel like you're playing it co-op, you know? It's pretty cool. And that brings me to my next one, Peter. We played Resident Evil 5 online co-op.
We did.
And that was awesome. We hardly had any issues with it. We both have Resident Evil 5 on Steam. We just went, bing, bing, he's your friend, let's play co-op. And we played it, and we completed it. We got every single player achievement you can get.
Yes, I actually forgot that we did that. Yeah, that's like the only PC game I've like ever really played properly.
Yeah. But that definitely comes within that realm. And the fact that online gaming brings 2 people together so they can play a game, even though we only live like less than 5 minutes away from each other.
That's what I find weird about it. We could have just played it.
I mean, I've got it on PS3. It's split screen. It's not a bad thing. I think the main reason why I wanted to do it that way was wanted to get the Steam achievements.
Right.
Because I've already played it on on my friend's PlayStation 3 at least. He already got the achievements. I think I may have actually already done it on this one. I can't remember. Whatever it is, I wanted those Steam achievements, and I thought that was a good chance to go for it. Plus, I knew that you were gearing up. You had put some money into your computer and wanted to play some games on it. So I thought, right, let's get you. You bought a headset for it and everything.
Exactly, yeah. And what I found, I will just say this: I will always prefer the personal experience of playing next to a friend,
Definitely,
couch co-op.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, I keep interrupting you.
Please, sir,
only one downside: you have to split the screen.
Yeah.
There you go. We recently played Medal of Honor on stream, and it was...
Oh, yeah.
That was a big hitter. It was a good game, but it was a bit of a hitter. Carry on, Pete, sorry.
I don't know, I forgot what I was going to say. What were we talking about?
We're talking about online gaming.
Couch co-op. Yes, I prefer that. I found it quite weird. I'd be playing for, for hours. You'd be playing Resident Evil.
Yeah, really?
And I'd be there with my headset chatting like, oh yeah, laughing, ha, shouting, hoo, hoo, hoo. And then
that is how we laugh.
I'd be like, okay, let's stop, okay? And I'd stop, I'd take my headset off. Like, we've finished playing the game, but you're not there, and it's like...
Yeah, there's no I'll see you later, mate, I'll walk you out the door.
Yeah, empty house. I'm just like, okay, I've just been shouting and screaming just alone in my house.
One of my friends, he's recently just got a PSVR, right? So he's there with it. He's got playing it, and he's playing this game. I don't even know what game he was playing. He said he was playing it for a few hours, and he took it off, and it was dark.
Yeah,
because it was obviously sunlight when he put his headset on. It had gone dark, and he just like completely pitch black when he took it off.
yeah.
It's quite surreal.
I've lived with when I lived in shared housing. I lived with people that would online game, and then you're just completely in another world.
Yeah.
And they're just shouting and screaming or saying this, saying that, and you behind them, you can say whatever, call them, be like that. Fuck off, mate.
So I think what we can say is that there are definitely two sides to this story.
Yes.
I think if you're going to use it as a bridge between you and someone else that you already know to play a game, it's perfect. If you are going to play a multiplayer game with random people and try and have a nice time, it's going to be unlikely to happen.
But when it does, it's awesome.
Yeah, and you get such cool experiences. I remember I was playing a game called APB, which I played quite a bit back in the day, and there was this one time where I was playing it alone, and there was just this other guy, and he was just, "You're hacking, man, you're hacking," and I was just fucking owning his ass. I was like, snarf, snarf.
Yeah.
I just destroyed him, and that was a really good feeling. And that was, technically going against what I just said.
I remember playing, like, just one example, I remember playing the UFC game, so like a fighting game, and kicking someone's ass, and then they messaged me like, "Oh, fuck your mother," and I'm like,
yeah.
You lost, son.
I know.
Fucking lost, boy.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. It's just, and how angry do you have to get to...
I've never gone out my way. If you're next to me and you beat me, I'm like, you're a fucking cunt, Mike. But I've never, like, had to go into a menu, message, put in the user ID, I'm going to write this message to this person because they beat me. I got my ass kicked, so I'm not going to say anything, but yeah, so that's a bad experience. But yeah, online gaming, not for everyone, not for me, so I don't care about what anyone else thinks. It's not for me.
And we're nearing the very end of our video. Thank you very much for answering, guys. And the next question is retro gaming versus modern gaming. Which one do you prefer?
I'm going to go out on a limb and say that I actually prefer modern games for the fact that I guess because like modern consoles and things like that have like backwards compatibility so that I can still technically play the old games and do those things. And the newer games are starting to get some of those retro feel to them and like build off of games and like remaster them.
But this is like not about consoles or platforms. It's just video games video games themselves. So if you say that you like the modern games because they could have the retro feel, then why not say that you like the retro games?
Because I like the modern games as well that you can't do with retro games.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say that I like both. I'm going to say I like both. Because there's certain things in retro games that you don't have in modern games, and there's certain things in modern games that they don't have in retro games. Mm-hmm. And I really like it now. I agree. I technically kind of agree with him, but I think he's kind of wording it different than how I'd word it. But I like the modern games that do the retro style. Mm-hmm. Because I think they actually... I notice a lot with games, modern games that use the retro style, they actually create more interesting storylines, or they utilize different areas of the game creation that they would have spent on their time on like the artistry and stuff like that. And so it's a lot more entertaining to me and well-rounded than if they had spent all their time and consuming themselves with trying to make it artistically beautiful. It's like I think that it helps the indie developers, and I think indie games are really getting to be better now than like even the big name studios.
Yeah, I think that's what the reason I would say I prefer, or not, that I prefer modern games is because they can have that retro feel. They can do stuff that like the remastering of old games, where it's technically they're just beautifying an old game so that like it's more accessible for people now. But when you look at it, it's still that retro game.
Yeah.
But then you have the games that are already done in the new style, and it's like an homage to like what this retro game was. but you have like, no, I have these other mechanics and I can do these other things that weren't possible back then.
I'm also going to throw another thing in there because I kind of touched upon it when I was there. I like the video game industry. I know this is really going to be weird because there's problems. There's always problems no matter what. But I really like the direction that the video game community is heading right now. Whereas it's kind of like it's kind of like how it was in the early 80s, right before the video game collapse. And I thought we were headed towards another collapse of the industry again because of this. But what I'm finding now is it's flourishing more, is the sense that there's more games being produced now. In the 80s, it killed the industry because they were being oversaturated with all these games, but they didn't know how to do marketing back then. They didn't know how to do anything. There wasn't the internet back then also to utilize and help with marketing. So there weren't indie developers, really. Hell, there was barely like...
There was barely regular developers.
There was barely regular developers. It was kind of like they didn't know where to go. They didn't know how to utilize it. Whereas like now, developers are a lot more intelligent.
Yeah.
But because of technology and how everything is now, indie developers are able to become like bigger named than the actual like studios and stuff like that. And so it's really admirable, like how it's starting to be now.
Yeah, I think that has to do a lot too now, because as somebody that went to school to try to learn how to make video games, for the people that are actually able to successfully get into that, like I can program my own games and do like those kind of things, for them it becomes like passion projects where they, fall in love with the idea of creating something that someone would enjoy, like the way that they did when they were younger, where back then it was a bunch of old guys that knew how to program, and it's like, I hope this is fun.
Working on E.T. I hope this falls through. Totally went there. Yeah. Oh god, I feel sorry for those kids that were like, "Oh, we found all the ETs. Let's get out of this sweet, sweet 80s." No, dude, ET was a horrible game. There's a reason why they were thrown into a land dump. Really.
Yeah.
There you go. But I guess modern games, then I'm kind of veering more on the side of modern games too. Yeah, I guess you're right.
Yeah.
Like modern times, I think, is really what helps. Is like,
yeah, I think the
we're
retro
a lot more
is
intelligent now.
Yeah, I think retro is wonderful for our nostalgia, but
we love retro.
We love retro, but the things that are possible now and like once they fix the whole like multiplayer on different systems and like other things that just kind of irritate me, I think they're heading for a better place.
Speaking of multiplayer, the one thing that breaks modern gaming right now is, and this is the problem we're having because we have a son, they don't have games now that allow split screen multiplayers playing off like the same system in the same room together. You can't just sit on a couch like how we are and play 2-player with a modern game.
Yeah.
And that is annoying. Mm-hmm. It's so annoying because my boy wants to play with one of us and it doesn't allow him to do that.
Yeah, it's very limited.
Very sad. It's very sad that we have our kid who's was the age that we were when we first discovered video games, and all the stuff that we could do as kids he can't do, even though we're far more technologically advanced. Pisses me off.
Yeah,
but that's my rant.
So Peter, Final question.
The big one.
Retro or modern video games?
Retro.
Thank you, Dr. Virtual, indeedy, sir.
Yes,
For
thanks.
inviting us.
Yeah, thanks for giving us this task. We quite enjoy it.
Yeah, man, it's good shit.
Yeah.
Sorry it took so long to get the video to
Yeah.
you, though. Apparently we're not as,
We've got our own YouTube content to create. It doesn't seem like there's enough hours in a day, but we're glad that we can do something for you, and we're very thankful that you can feature us on your channel.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Hi, we're Versus the Game. I'm the Minion.
And I'm Magic. Meow, meow, meow. Hi, guys.
So those are our opinions on modern games and retro games and what we think our preference is and how we view games. So a big shout out, thanks to Dr. Virtual.
Thank you for including us on the Sturdy. This is like really cool. I was so excited when you offered like this idea up, and I really can't wait to see what other people have to say on the topic too, because I think really like the community as a whole, like hearing what other people's thoughts is really interesting. To me it is.
Yeah.
So
I always like interacting with other people and seeing what they like too. So we've been Versus the Game. I'm the Minion.
And I'm Magic. Bye guys. Meow meow meow.
If you've made it to this end of the video, you're an MVP. I mean, you're truly outstanding. Thank you very kindly for watching, fellow gaming minions. It must have been really fun, or something of a journey, exotic ride, roller coaster, to actually watch a 2+ hour video from me, Dr. Virtual. First time I've ever done that. I mean, the editing was just, it took quite a bit of time, as you can tell from how long the video is. And the fact is, I didn't mind the editing. The fact is, these YouTubers, they got involved, and I kindly thank you very much. Versus the Game, Meowjid and the Minion, Ray Killam, and Retro Sesh, Peter, Mike. It's been fantastic for you guys to just take the time out of your day and just to get involved in this collaboration, answer some questions. Sorry I asked so many. I didn't realise what I was thinking, but I had to put a time limit on it just to be on the safe side. But again, you're awesome, guys and girls. Thank you very kindly again for getting involved in this collab. I really do appreciate the fact that you guys just wanted to get involved, and I really am happy and satisfied with the results. Now, as I said at the start of this video, this wasn't to be an in-depth analysis of retro gaming versus modern gaming. That video could be done at a later date, or pretty much done later on, so to speak, in terms of the future. So if I ever do get around to wanting to making that type of video, type. So, where do I stand on these questions? Well, I might do a little bit of a vlog, so I can split them up into different sections, so each video won't have to be about an hour long. Because if I spend my time talking about my answers with these specific questions, I might drag on for quite some time. So I may do a little bit of vlogging every now and again, every few weeks, on the questions that I've been asked these wonderful YouTubers. Their channels will be in the description. Make sure you check them out. I mean, Versus the Game, they're a couple channel, so they do all sorts of video games that they play. Greatly recommended. Rachel, she does her own thing, and so does Retro Sesh. Again, two awesome friends. They do gamings. All these people that have been involved in today's video, gaming channels. Go and enjoy their video game content, please. And don't tell them I sent you, otherwise they want to collect their reward. I don't know what that reward is. But for those of you that are stuck around to this very point in the video, massive thumbs up. Could you please give this video a thumbs up and share this video around? You know, I'd greatly appreciate it if you do. I'm Dr. Virtual, the Gaming Doctor. May retro gaming live on, always be in our hearts. And may you have a great day, and you take good care of yourselves.